We see on the camera there on the screen, Magnus and Hans almost ready. You mentioned most people know what you think is going to happen. Can you tell those who mightn't have heard you say it before, what do you think will happen here?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Magnus is a big favorite. I expect him to win the match. I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't. That being said, it's also hard to know how much Magnus is prepared for this. Because, for example, you know, if you look at my match, it's very clear that Alireza was super prepared, very, very, very ready for this. I have no doubt that Hans has spent many hours preparing. Of course, he said, you know, quite a few choice things about everybody, frankly, these days. So I have no doubt that Hans is well prepared. So if Magnus is not super well prepared, I think you can see a situation where he's getting worse positions out of the opening and could get in some trouble. But overall, I think it's really hard to see Magnus losing. Also because at the end of the day, I've said this a few times about the format, but I do think the format, there are issues with it from the standpoint that there are very few people in the world who are very good at Bull. There are certain people who are simply better overall. And I think that because Magnus has that edge in Bullet, Hans is going to have to press really hard before it gets to that stage. That would be what I would say about it. So, yeah, I think that my prediction is that Magnus is going to win clean. That's my prediction.
Obviously, go ahead, Fiona.
So I just saw Magnus there not happy with, I'm not sure what exactly, but with the headphone situation. We saw you guys wear double headphones. Can you just explain like the technicality of that?
Yeah, I mean, they make you put two headphones on. So you have to put these little earbuds, which actually for me, or not earbuds, you have to put these little ones that go in your ear, which I think has the music, and then you have the big ones over it. You probably saw me like at least 10 times during the match, literally pressing the hard ones because it was rather uncomfortable. So that's how the procedure goes. Again, like for anybody who's there who wants to think that I'm just like trying to start something, I'm not. It's just generally speaking, it wasn't super comfortable. You know, I think the way that I look at all this stuff, broadly speaking, is we'll see whether it pays off or not. We'll see whether the viewership is what chess.com wants it to be, whether it leads to more of these events, or we go back to the regular ways. I have no idea, you know, what it looks like, certainly, but yeah, it's definitely a little bit different. I think probably for Magnus, he might not like it. I mean, there were times that I definitely did not enjoy it, but you know, fortunately for me, it's actually not fortunately for me. I would say one of the big things that I was worried about was that, you know, you might have some disconnection, you might have some issues, something would go wrong, and luckily none of that happened. So from that standpoint, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not personally a huge fan of the two headphones, but I mean, I get it if you're going to have a live audience.
So we see Magnus right now actually just wearing one set of headphones. Are they forcing you to listen to some? Well,
you're supposed to you have to wear two. No, wait, let me pull it up. You have to wear two. I would have worn one if I had known you could wear one. You have to wear two. No.
Do you have to listen to music or?
No, you don't have. But actually, you know what the problem is? I'm going to be honest. The problem is at some point I actually turned off the music because I didn't feel like the music was giving me the vibes. A pun unintended, but. The thing is, when I didn't do it, the white noise was so incredibly obnoxious. Like I literally, like I had to play music because the white noise was impossible. It was really, really jacked up super high. Yeah. And so it's like I had to play music. If I didn't play music, it would have been it would have been even worse. So I mean, at least for me, you kind of have to. It wasn't a situation where I could.
Do you see any improvement in that regard? Any other way to do things in order to, you know, let's say you have the option to not listen to anything?
I mean, again, the problem is the live audience, because yes, the live audience can make noise. You can look in the audience and look at someone and see maybe a visual reaction or something like that. So, I mean, I get the concept of white noise.
Can you have maybe like a soundproof box or something like that?
Well, I mean, we're already getting further away. We're getting further and further away. So, but you know, yeah, at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's an attempt to try and push chess in a certain direction. Will it be successful or not? It's very... Oh, Magnus played b3? Wow.
I do believe the games have started. Yes, he played b3.
Yeah. You know, I was also going to say this is another thing, you know, is that when I played against Alireza, because I played him so many times, like a lot of these quiet little sideline setups generally have not worked out very well for me, which is why I was trying to play main lines today for the most part, in case anyone was wondering why I kept playing like, you know, d4, e4 versus some of these, exactly what Magnus is playing, for example. But yeah, I think, you know, It's an attempt to do something different, and the time will tell whether it's going to become a legitimate thing or not. I mean, I personally, I'm actually somewhat skeptical that this is the path forward. But you know, it's something different. I think, again, looking at it from my standpoint, having played chess for so many years, I think that trying to move things in a new direction is a good thing. So even if I don't think it's great, I actually I understand the reasoning, and I think for myself, I was thinking about this earlier today. You're talking about, I mean, I've been playing chess for what, 30 years, but like at a seriously high level probably for the last like 15 to 20 years, maybe not 20, sorry, but last like 2009ish, so about last 15, 16 years, and very little has changed in terms of chess. Very little. There are more sponsors. There's a little bit more money, I would argue, in professional chess, certainly with Rex Sinkfield and all the events in St. Louis or the Grand Chess Tour. But fundamentally, not a whole lot has changed. And I think it's good to see new attempts.
What would you say, going back to the match, what would you say Magnus's strategy should be in this one? If you were in Magnus's shoes right now, what would you do?
I mean, it's all about it's really all about the start. I mean, Magnus can recover if he gets off to a bad start. If Hans doesn't get off to a good start, it's over. I mean, also, it's funny because in a way I predicted exactly what was going to happen in my match today. I said multiple times on my stream, and I think in one of the interviews yesterday was that if I didn't do well in the 5+1, I had a feeling it would be bad, or I'd be a big underdog, and I was actually completely right about that. So I think for the match, Magnus, the start doesn't matter that much as long as he doesn't lose a bunch of games. For Hans, if he doesn't do well at the start, I think it's going to be a very, very long match. And I think already I like Magnus's position much more. I didn't like knight c6 from Hans at all. I thought that was just a bad move. I thought he should have played c6, knight bd7. That's a very, very weird decision.
How would you tell us a bit about the behind the scenes? Obviously, you've met all the players. How are the vibes? How was your interview with Gotham Chess?
Yeah, I mean, I
how
think
is the atmosphere in Paris?
I mean, the atmosphere is relatively fine. I mean, it's a little bit awkward, of course, because everybody's playing each other, and they're, I think you're probably trying to bait me to say something, but I guess no. Anyways. I mean, I know there's some people who try to say there's some drama between Ali Rez and myself. I definitely didn't. No. I haven't felt it. But what I was going to say is that certainly there are three people who are relatively, I would say, on good terms with each other, and then you have one person, and it makes for a very awkward situation. It makes for a very awkward situation. So. Yeah, it was definitely different than like the normal event, like a Grand Chess Tour event where, you go, you eat your dinner, your opening ceremony, everybody's very chill, they're talking, everybody's very happy. Definitely was not like that yesterday. So, but that being said, it was good. Yeah.
You're saying you think Magnus is gonna win this match, which would mean you would play Hans tomorrow. What I mean.
Well, I mean, I think what I'd say.
Sure,
but I mean, what I would say is what I've said before, and again, maybe I'm predicting the future, or maybe I'm not. But I think the problem with the Speed Chess Championship, or maybe for me, it's not a problem because it's definitely benefited me, is that most of the times the thing that has saved my bacon has been the bullet portion. There have been many matches, especially in the last 2 or 3 years that I've played, where if not for the bullet portion, I would have lost the match. If you look at this match, or not this match, you look at the Speed Chess Championship this year, the match against Nepo. I mean, I think I lost the 5+1 by 3 points. 3+1, I maybe got it back to even, or I was down by 1. But I do think if that whole match had been 5+1, I would have lost that match. Or last year playing Maxime, I think going into the bullet against Maxime, I was down 2. If I'm not mistaken, or something like that. So basically what I'm saying is that I think the format's a little bit broken from that standpoint if you don't have people who are evenly matched up in bullet competing. So I figure if I don't do anything too stupid, much like my other matches in the last couple of years, I'll probably be able to dominate bullet. Of course, that's not saying that it'll happen, but I feel like I should have a big advantage over Hans and bullet. I mean, I think really, there were a couple of moments even when I played Ali Reza today in the bullet where he found some ridiculous moves. You would think for 10, 15 seconds, and he just found some obscene things. I think he found this Queen D3. Was it Queen D3? I think it was Bishop F5 and Queen D3 in one of the 2 last games or 3 last games, which was absolutely crazy. And so, yeah, I think if I play Hans, if I don't do anything too stupid, I think I have great chances to I don't like this from Magnus necessarily, by the way, this exchange sack here.
Okay.
But I figure if it gets to bullet and I'm not down by a bazillion points, I think I'll be fine.
What would you say the main differences whenever you're in the heat of the battle are between 5+1, 3+1, especially those two? Obviously, the difference between that and bullet is quite miles away. But when you transition from 5+1 to 3+1, what's the main adjustment that you need to make?
I think that when you play, whoa, okay, this game's getting interesting. When you play 5+1 to 3+1 to 3+1, you have to move faster. You have to move faster. That's what you have to do. I mean, you basically have to play faster, but also, I mean, I think if I look back on the match today, probably my biggest mistake, I mean, I would have lost pretty much no matter what I did, I think, but was that I didn't change to a different line in the Spanish until it was too late. As soon as I got smoked in that first game, there was one of those games where I got F5, F6, and after that, I probably should have just shifted completely to something different. So it depends on the openings. If everybody's playing the same openings in 5-1 and 3-1, then people have more time in a way. And the 3+1 move quickly, but if you start changing up your openings in the 3+1, then it's like people use time. If you get too low, bad things can happen. I mean, I had that one miracle in that crazy Nimzo that I won, which I should have lost to Ali Reza. But I mean, I think that's the big difference between 5-1 and 3-1. Is it's just like, is everybody gonna play the same openings or not play the same openings?
Yeah. What about the position right now? It seems like Hans is slowly taking over.
1 second, let me pull up Zoom because I was trying to pull up the game. Hans is taking over. Let's see. I mean, okay, that's a questionable.
But you might have to. Can you look at the game on? Do you see it on Zoom?
I see it on Zoom. Yeah, I don't believe that Hans is better though. I mean.
Oh really? In the end game?
Well, I mean, he is better, but how? I mean, knight d2 is a big threat. Like if you go knight e8, knight d2, rook b5, bishop d7 traps the rook.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I mean, the thing is, Black needs to get the knight to c7, but how? Like maybe rook d8, knight e3, knight e8. But it's very kind of it's very unclear because actually I was thinking rook d8 here.
Wait, b5, knight d2. Oh my goodness.
What? Are you joking?
That might actually just be GG's. Well, a4, I guess you can still play on, but
no. But I mean, come on.
Yeah, just take and bishop c5.
I mean, take and... Well, no, if you take and go bishop c5, there's rook c8. Oh, no, there's no rook c8. You have a bishop on h3. Actually, good point. Yeah, I mean, Magnus is just going to squeeze this. I love this. He's not going to even take the rook until he has to. He's just going to squeeze this. He's going to go king f2, improve the position, and just win. Yeah, I mean, Magnus is going to win this game, and I don't think it's going to be... I mean, it's hard to see this being close after this.
Yeah.
Can you tell us that, I guess, Hans and Magnus did not talk to each other at all in Paris?
No, I mean, I don't think anybody spoke to Hans, frankly. But yeah, like I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, nobody spoke to him.
Okay. And so it looks like Magnus is going. Do you think there's any scenario where the pressure gets to Magnus, or do you think his motivation is gonna be?
I mean, I think Magnus. I think the bottom line is that, you know, for Magnus, if he plays well, he's going to win. You know, it's sort of like what I was saying with most of my matches in the SCC. If it gets down to 1+1, I'm a big favorite, even if I'm behind by 1 or 2, just because I'm that much better. I think for Magnus, he knows that just in general in chess, he's better than everybody else. He just knows he's better. So he already has this big built-in advantage, and it's really hard to it's really hard for me to see him lose this match unless he tilts, and I just don't. Oh, rook c1 is a nice move by Magnus. That is beautiful.
Yeah, rook c8 coming. No b2, nothing. The bishop d4 control is everything.
No, I mean, this... Actually, wait, but there's bishop d3. Wait, there's still a bishop d3 trick, maybe. Bishop d3 and b2?
So maybe king
there's
e3
still a
right
trick.
now.
Maybe king e3. Maybe king e3 first, yeah. Yeah. Okay, now rook c8 and game over. Yeah, rook c8 is GG. What? Bishop c... Well, but, yeah. I mean, this proves my point, though. This proves my point, though, about this, which is that, again, you see Hans with a couple seconds on the clock, he can't keep it together. And, yeah, I mean, I think I'll hang around for this game because I want to see what happens in this Italian. Because Hans, in his first 2 matches, he actually was, like, really punishing Maxime and Wesley in the Italians. So they were both getting very bad positions, or not Wesley, not Maxime. But against Wesley specifically, he was like dominating him every game. And actually, the other one was the match against Anish, where it felt like Anish was getting, well, maybe that was Nidors. I don't know. I feel like there were two Hans matches that I saw where he was doing very well in these Italians. So this is kind of, I think, the critical moment is what if Hans doesn't get anything in this first game of the Italian, he's already gonna have to shift to Plan B, which is some kind of other opening, and I don't like it. So
do you feel this is his main strength, main weapon?
Well, I mean, he dominated Wesley. I mean, he just dominated Wesley. I mean, in the SCC in that match. I mean, in the Italian, he was just much better every game. I mean, he was just dominating completely. So yeah, if Magnus isn't in trouble in the Italians, which is where I would say Hans' biggest strength is, he also won some games, I think, in like that Croatia tournament, some other events in the Italians. So yeah, this is probably the big one. It is like if Hans doesn't get some kind of advantage out of this opening of the Italian, and he like loses this game, I think it's going to go downhill very quickly.
You've played the Champion Chess Tour finals, you know, the general anti-cheating measures at these big events. How is anything different, if anything is different in this one?
Well, I mean, the main difference is that there are people. There are people watching. So that's the main difference is that you have people watching here. You don't have people watching in Toronto, which, I mean, again, like I said, I have mixed feelings about that. Like, I understand the purpose of trying to make it like really exciting for the fans and trying to do something in person. I mean, for me, it's, you know, like I said, it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, I get it. On one hand, I don't really necessarily love it. But, you know, it's something new. It's something different. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Go ahead, Fiona.
No, you go ahead. I was going to ask about the position, just since Hikaru mentioned, you know, the Italian is the bread and butter. Do you think Hans has gotten anything out of the opening?
No, I mean, this looks very equal to me. It looks very, very, very much like a nothing burger, is what I would say. It looks very, 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 very slow. So, yeah, it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good for Magnus, is what I would say. Maybe very good is an exaggeration, but it doesn't look like Hans has any advantage here in the opening after Rook d6 here. I mean, it actually kind of reminds me quite a bit of a few of my games today with knights on the board. I mean, I know the pawns are on c7 and b7, but the structure is very, very similar.
Yeah, we saw at some point during the match a camera come behind your shoulder and focus on your screen. Did that bother you in any way?
I mean, I don't actually recall that moment right off, but I think what I would say is that, you know, broadly speaking, I didn't lose the game because of any of those things. You can say, sure, maybe it was distracting, this, that, or the other thing, but I lost the match because my opponent was better than me.
Also,
so, like, I mean, these little things can like, it can be annoying, but it starts to feel like we're talking about, like, it's like starting to say, well, this is what happened, that happened. I mean, and it could have been uncomfortable, but that's not the reason I lost.
Just to clarify, we had huge lag issues following, but for you guys playing, there were no issues.
I don't think so. I mean, as far as I could tell, it seemed completely fine. So yeah, I mean, it seemed completely fine to me. It seemed like a big deal. By the way, Magnus' position looks completely fine. Just knight e7 and rook b6 looks very, very stable here.
Another question from me. Obviously, you're expecting Magnus to win this one. In that case, Magnus meets Alireza in the finals. How do you see that match play out?
I had a question. Could Hans have played queen a3 instead of knight e3 and hit the pawns, maybe? Looked like a move, if you go back one move.
Yes.
After king g7, I thought maybe there's queen a3. I mean, maybe it's nothing, but it looked kind of like something. I don't know. Maybe it was nothing, but it looked like something.
Yep.
So,
maybe some b4, I don't know.
Looks like, yeah, maybe. But anyway, I mean, Magnus looks fine. So what were you trying to say?
No, I was just asking about your, let's say, prediction in a potential finals between Magnus and Alireza.
Yeah, I mean, I think Alireza has good chances. And I would say the main reason for that is because, first of all, he beat Magnus in the Chess Champions Tour, but he has that special ability to be able to find good moves with seconds on the clock. And I think that's something, as I said, I don't think there's literally anybody in the world of the top players who can do it the way that Alireza does. He also, for example, he proved it. I know it was a 30-second increment, but he had that game against Fabiano in the Sinkfield Cup where he must have been down like an hour on the clock. I feel like he was down 2 minutes for much of that like last hour of the game. And he found a way to win. He just defended extremely well. So I think he has good chances. I think a lot comes down to a lot's going to come down to bullet if we get to that point. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. By the way, I don't like Hans's position already. It's looking like a Magnus type of position.
What are the plans for, let's say,
I was wondering, can you go H4, knight E2, and like something like D5 maybe? I was wondering about something like knight E2, D5. Yeah, I was wondering about something like this in D5, like maybe E4 or rook D6. Also, no, there's D6 here, so maybe just instead of E4, rook D6, like rook D6. I mean, it looks.
I think we have some moves.
Yeah, let's see.
Yep.
Yeah, we got H4, knight E2. We got D5. Yeah.
Yep. He's following your suggestion.
Yeah, rook D6. No, I mean, this is already looking really bad.
Yeah.
Hans has a ton of Hans has a ton of time here, so like it's not that big of a deal. But C4 takes knight C3 is probably the only way. If I had to guess,
he's probably
takes knight C3.
Knight C3, E4,
and then F4. I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's very imbalanced. It's very, very imbalanced here. I don't really know what's going on. So. Yeah, it's a tough position to play. Tough position to play for both sides here.
Hikaru, I have one more question that has nothing to do with the SCC. It came from the chat a while ago from Master Chief. Your thoughts on the new format for the World Blitz Championship?
I think it's terrible. I think it's actually terrible. I mean, if you want me to like complain about something today, since I can't complain about the match, I'll complain about FIDE. So. First things first, I got an email this morning asking me, asking me about multiple format changes for the FIDE World Cup, which I've not responded to. But I saw it this morning, which is completely ridiculous, frankly. Like, I don't approve of it, first of all, for the World Cup. I don't know why they're trying to change all these different formats for every event except the one event that people want changed, ironically enough. So the first thing is that I think it's crazy that FIDE is trying to change the formats. I think for the World Rapid and Blitz, changing it to 13 rounds and I guess an 8-player knockout, I think is just stupid. I'm just gonna say it. I think it's stupid. I'm not a fan of it at all, and I don't know why they're trying to change it. Also, from a more general standpoint, it's ridiculous to have an 8-player knockout because for anybody whose conditions are not covered by FIDE. You either have to plan that you're going to make the knockout or not make the knockout, and you're talking about something like $600 or something for a hotel in New York City over Christmas and New Year's Eve. And I think that's just absolutely unacceptable for people who are not the top players and don't have the conditions to basically, well, either they book that extra night. If they don't make it, I guess they're supposed to go around New York City. Or if they do make it and they don't expect to, then I guess they have to get a hotel room absolutely last minute. So, I am definitely not a fan of it.
Also, it's about the flight itinerary.
Also true. Yes. I mean, I think FIDE is going off the deep end with this. I do not like it whatsoever, and I'm really questioning what exactly is going on. I'm really questioning it. And I think it's just very, very bad decision in my opinion. Very bad decision.
Back to chess. How are you feeling about the new developments in the position?
Still looks, I think it's going to be a draw, right? Probably knight a4, queen c7, knight c3 if I had to guess, and we'll get a repetition. I mean, knight a4, queen d8, knight c3. I feel like if you go knight knight h5, knight e2, then d5 hangs, so it's not so clear.
The bar loves black's position. The bar loves Magnus.
Yeah, I'm thinking queen d8 and knight h5 probably, right? I mean, you have a protected pass pawn on e4 too.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think Magnus is going to go queen d8. We'll get knight c3 and knight h5. Okay, it goes back to c7.
He repeats once. Now he can...
Well, but the problem is knight h5, there's knight e2, and now d5 isn't hanging here. Yeah, okay, so Magnus is going to go back, and is he going to actually repeat, or is he going to play queen d8 is the question.
I think he's asking Hans perhaps a question as well. Do you want to repeat? Then maybe if he goes... knight a4, queen d8 is going to be some psychological play to assert, let's say, his domination.
Yeah, I mean, it's the big moment. Will he play queen d8 or not? That's the big question mark. My instinct that Magnus won't do it, by the way, because it's only the second.
Queen b8.
Queen d8.
Okay.
Interesting. I don't understand what that does. Knight c3? Yeah, I don't understand what that does at all.
Yeah, rook b6 doesn't work because of d6. You probably don't want to allow that.
No, we're gonna get a draw here. I think we'll get a draw. Literally the only result that'll keep me around for another 5 minutes. But I think we'll get a draw. That's what I would predict. So
yeah, the problem is that both Queen C7, Queen B6 are repeating 3 times now.
Oh, is Magnus gonna burn the? Wait, what? Wow, that's a bold move. I guess he's gonna go D6, Queen B6.
I think that's what he
pretty
wants.
bold actually by Magnus to run his clock down like that and do it. Yeah, Queen B6, I assume. Logical.
Do you think Magnus might let the fact that he's playing Hans affect some of his decisions?
I doubt it, but I don't know. Yeah, see, like I don't like what Magnus is doing here. I mean, it's getting very, very murky. Queen E5, but now there's Queen F2. Oh, is that a blunt? Wait, Queen F4 game. Oh no, Queen F4. There's Knight C6. Oh wait, Magnus, did he just blunder? There's Queen E7. I mean, wait, what? Knight E4? Now it's just gonna be a draw. Okay. Yeah, it's gonna be a draw.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll hang around for one more and then I'll go.
Of
one
course,
more. Let's see if Magnus can win the white game.
For whatever reason, Magnus plays black again.
Oh no, is it the break? Are they on the break?
There's no way. There's only been 2 games.
You guys had your break very early in the 90 in the 5+1. Do you know why?
It wasn't after 35 minutes or not?
Yeah, it's been, I think, after 3 games. So probably around 30.
Actually, you're right. They've only played 2 games. There's no way they've been playing for 35 minutes.
No
right?
way. No. It's been 20 minutes so far. It's been 20 minutes so far.
Here we go. So wait, so what happens? They have to abort the game?
They probably have to abort the game and restart.
And then they have to reset the clock and okay, so yeah, we're gonna have one of the problems starting now, of course. What's going on?
The stream is delayed by 1 minute, so I cannot really see what the players are maybe saying to the arbiters.
I'm looking at the players. I mean, they are at the computer, but they're not playing, I don't think. I think they're waiting.
Yeah, so somehow chess.com started the 3rd game with having the same colors as round 2 or something. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We're seeing some complaints right now.
Ay. Okay, lovely. Yeah, so it is what it is. Actually, I guess on that note, then I will get going. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll recap my match. Or I'll just recap Magnus's match because probably the Magnus match is going to get more, many more views. So I might just cover the Magnus match. We'll see what I post on YouTube. But actually, just generally, you know, I hope everybody did enjoy the match today. I mean, obviously, it didn't go my way, but it was still fun to play. And yeah, I mean, it happens. It happens.
We very much appreciate you showing up and spending this time with us. Best of luck for tomorrow, and I guess we'll talk to you again then.
We'll see you tomorrow, Hikaru.
Yeah. By the way, actually, since someone asked one question of relevance, the breaks as they're structured are not after 4 games. They're structured for whatever reason. They have a break. The first portion is 90 minutes, and the break is after 35 minutes because of I guess the Norway channel or something. They bought ads, so they have to run them at that point. So the break is after 35 minutes. Why is the game only aborted now? But they have to play. But the break comes, I think, after 35 minutes, and then I think it's at 30 minutes of the second portion, which also is completely illogical because it should be halfway in every segment, or the 5-1-3-1. But that's how they do it. It's not based on games or anything else. So yeah, it's just how it goes. For anybody who's wondering.
Hikaru, thank you for that. Once again, best of luck tomorrow, and we'll talk to you then.
All right, I'll see you guys then. Have a good one.
See you, Hikaru. Bye.
Cheers. Bye. And Christian, I guess we have to look for the game because they have started actually.
Do we? Okay.
Yeah, they did start a while ago. I just don't know where that game.
Let's try to go watch Magnus once again. Here we go. Here we go. I actually found it. There we go. For whatever reason, my follow Magnus wasn't working anymore. Cool.
Blame chess.com.
No. we've
blamed the mirror.
blaming them the whole day. It's okay. It's all good. All right. So what do we have right now? This one, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's looking amazing for Magnus right now. Just the typical squeeze that he enjoys. More space, more attacking opportunities, and this is going to be a very difficult defense for Hans. Also, take a look at the clock. 4 minutes 14 seconds against 2 minutes 28. Not looking good for Hans. This one.
What do you think? Do you think Magnus? What is your opinion actually? Because we heard from Hikaru. What is your prediction for this match?
Yeah, I talked a little bit about it yesterday on my podcast. I did mention that I see Magnus as a big favorite. I think Fabi was saying something along the lines of 85 to 90%. I dropped it down a little bit to around 80%, just for the simple fact that this is a new type of challenge for Magnus. There's absolutely no reason to doubt Magnus's psychological state in general. He's probably the best player on the planet when it comes to mental games. He doesn't fall ever under pressure. So if he manages to avoid that, then obviously he's just going to dominate. And he seems to be doing that in the first few games. So I put him at 80%. Now I will, after the first couple of games, I can probably go even higher.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the official prediction on the chess.com chat. Like, what's it called again? Like, they have actually...
Smart Chess.
Smart Chess, that's the one, thank you. I think they rated Magnus Carlsen 83%, which is very, very high.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. What can Hans do? Can he surprise the world once again? Here he is struggling again with the black pieces in game 3. And we talked about, with the two of us talked about it. We talked about it with Hikaru. How you start the match is always so important, and I think Magnus, if he starts with a 2-point lead,
especially against Magnus, right?
Yeah.
Especially against Magnus, because the more Magnus wins, the more very difficult deal with confidence comes into play. Like, he's going to outplay you every single game from every single position, just because he's going to have that extra mental edge. He's a different type of player when he gets that going, and when he understands
the blood.
Exactly, when he understands he's in good enough shape to prove that he's the best chess player on the planet with ease. And also, I don't think he sees Hans as one of his main competitors, so I don't think you have that that freedom to experiment that comes with playing a player that you believe, and I'm sure he believes that is much more inferior to you.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. I mean, I'm curious, is Magnus just looking to absolutely destroy Hans' soul here? I'm sure if he can, he will. I think there will be no mercy. And that's true, of course, for both sides. I think this really is the biggest grudge match that we have seen in chess in a long, long time. I mean, Hans literally said that if he beats Magnus, Magnus is finished, all that stuff. So yeah, a lot at stake here, but can Hans back it up on the board this game? Why is it so crushing for white?
Well, I have a very simple idea. I go knight to f4, follow it up with knight h5. That's going to force a reaction, which is most likely going to be rook to g8 to defend the pawn on g7, and then you will have to deal with all sorts of knight takes g7 ideas in the position. Knight h5, by the way, keep going. Knight f6 is a big problem in the position. You cannot take after rook to g8 because of bishop takes f6, that's checkmate. So your king is basically busted, and look at the clock. This is domination right now. 3 minutes against 8 minutes, and Magnus looks bored.
Magnus, he is in the zone. He's got this one wrapped up. Will he find knight f6, as you're pointing out? Very nice shot. What happens? So knight f6, knight takes c1. Well, the queen, we take the queen, and
I'll take the queen.
Yeah.
I might even just simply recapture on c1. Yeah. Knight takes h7. It's game over right now, followed by queen to h5 checkmate. Queen h5 is also a nice way to finish things off. Bishop takes, followed by rook takes c6. Yeah, this one is looking pretty good for Magnus.
So we've got what? We've got an hour remaining. So I guess we'll get one more game before they go on break. If I understand.
Not sure. Did Hikaru say 30 minutes or 35 minutes?
35 minutes, he said.
Then we're probably going to get another game. Yes. Oh, by the way, Hans just resigned after knight to c4. He didn't even wait for Magnus because he wanted to get the game, I guess. I'm not really sure why. But now we're looking at the 2.5 to half. Pretty significant edge early on for Magnus. And once again, Magnus, once he gets the edge, once he understands the way you play, once he starts reading you, he's a very difficult player. He's the most difficult player to deal with.
We have another Italian on the board here. Actually, at some point in game 2, towards the end, things were moving fast. It was hard to follow, but it looked like Hans at some point, at just maybe at one moment or another, he got some chances. So let's see what he can do here with the white pieces. I think he needs to avoid a loss at any costs. But can he get a win? He will be, looking for that first win, for that first Magnus scalp.
And I want to say very cool what Hikaru said, and he kind of pointed out to the fans as well, what is Hans's, let's say, biggest weapon. And it seems to be this Italian. He mentioned that he outplayed much more higher ranked players, let's say. Wesley, MVL, outplayed them in this Italian. And if he manages to do the same thing with Magnus, obviously, Magnus will need to adjust during the match. But right now, that's not been the case.
Yeah, I mean, this one, it doesn't look like white has gotten anything. Also doesn't look like black has anything, but I'm sure Magnus is happy with that. As long as he keeps winning with white, he won't mind, drawing with black. But let's see, usually we say, when the knight lands on f5, that can be a little bit dangerous, but where should the queen go to?
D7, perhaps. E6 is also possible as well, just to propose the queen trade. That could be an interesting idea. Queen e6, queen takes e6, f takes e6, just to kick the knight back. Now, you do have the double pawns, and that might be problematic later on in the endgame. What do you think? He went queen f4.
I prefer keeping the queens on. First of all, I always prefer playing with queens and just avoiding. I understand that the e-pawns wouldn't necessarily be a weakness, but I feel maybe for me personally, my technique wouldn't be the best. So I like keeping the queens.
I like queen f8 because
g6, yeah.
Exactly, and that's why he played queen f8. He wants to defend the h6 pawn, get the g6, get the knight away, and just play the position as such. I think what Hans probably wants is some sort of craziness after g6, maybe knight e3, saying that, okay, take my pawn, but at least I'm going to get the knight to d5 on a more central position, maybe take on c7. I think perhaps this is what he's gunning for.
Yeah, but okay, so he starts with b5. If you're white, how do you... I mean, there's... I was thinking rook d1, but obviously the pawn on e4 is under attack right now. So Hans does take the d file. I messed up the... I mixed up the colors. I'm sorry. I know it's still early into this match. Magnus takes the d file and Hans reroutes the knight to d5.
It's early into the match, but we've been up for a few hours. This is our 6th hour of commentary, so definitely stay with us, guys. We sometimes make slight mistakes, not huge by any means, but it has been a long day.
Mixing up the player, it's just a tiny mistake.
A long day, but the energy is definitely back with this match. I have to say, there's a specific tension that you only feel whenever you have this type of build-ups, right? And this was definitely a build-up, a 2-year build-up. They haven't played outside of Title Tuesdays since 2022. And in those Title Tuesdays, I mean, okay, sure, they matter, but they're not the same type of competition, the same level of competition.
And during that time, I mean, Hans has been moving up the world rankings. He's now in the top 20, so he is a different player completely from when they last met. He's also, let's not forget how young Hans is. So of course, in 2 years, a player will learn a lot, will develop a lot, will acquire a lot of knowledge. I hope that it's not gonna be too one-sided. I think, if Magnus just after the 5+1, he has a 5-point lead. For the intrigue of the match, I mean, some people will be delighted, but I feel for the intrigue of the match, it would be a bit disappointed if it's completely one-sided. I don't know how you feel about that.
Of course, the biggest numbers and the largest audiences will be staying if the match continues to be tight, right? Because that's where the intrigue is. But of course, if you're going to have a lopsided match, at least we're going to get some answers, because this was one of those situations in which we didn't have any recent feedback between the two players. We didn't really know where they are. In terms of, we know where Magnus is in terms of skill. We've seen Magnus play so much, but we didn't see Hans play as much, especially not as much Rapid and Blitz against top opposition, only in the last couple of months with the matches that he organized with the Speed Chess Championships. He's been getting a lot of games in, but we didn't see as much, we didn't get as much feedback from Hans.
That is definitely true. Some questions will be answered tonight. What do you make of the developments here? Is Magnus taking over?
I think so. I'm seeing this pawn on d5, and the big problem whenever you have this structure with the spear on e5, the top of the spear on e5, the knight is in big trouble, because you cannot land on d4, and with the queen on f7 you weren't able to transfer the knight via d2 as well, because you were losing the d5 pawn. So these are the type of problems that Hans is dealing with right now. The knight on f3 is a big one, and to be honest, I'm also seeing this knight coming to e4 as well. Everything is working very nicely for Magnus. I see him taking over right now.
Yeah, and again, this is the type of position in which he strives. Hans this time is up on the clock a little bit, but it's not a big difference. I mean, 20 seconds between the players, and Hans has
Don't play c4. You might be wondering why not c4, c5, try this knight on d6 and try to push d6, but queen to b1 after c4 check, intermediate check, and then I just pick up the pawn on c4 with the pawn or with the knight. You cannot recapture back because the queen on b4 is the pawn on b3 spin, then you lose the queen on b4. So a lot of pitfalls right now for Hans, and he's falling behind on the clock also.
Yeah, I mean, c4 is really a move you want to make, but with that full board vision, you spot it very quickly. Tactically, it does not work. And if not c4, I mean, how are you going to hold on to that weakness on d5? How are you going to stop all this play? a4.
a4, yes, a4 now. Obviously, Hans is trying to liquidate as much. Queen to b1, forcing the king to h2. And queen to e4. I mean, Magnus is majestic right now in his play, transitioning into a winning endgame, because queen to b1 first, so that you weaken another pawn. After queen e4, knight takes e4, both f2 and c3 are attacked by the knight, and you cannot defend both with the rook. If you go to c2, then you lose a d5 pawn. You're going to lose a pawn at that point. Right now, with the clock ticking down, the pressure is on Hans, and this is tremendous pressure because you don't have a move. You're losing material right now. You're losing material right now.
Yeah.
And this is the type of position that Magnus loves. Everybody that studies chess, that has seen Magnus play, knows that Magnus loves this type of position.
You're also staring down the barrel of going into the first break of the match with a 3-point deficit. So stakes are high here for Hans, who's trying queen c5, but here comes the check and
e4.
Oh, e4.
E4, he wants to go rook to d4. This is his saving grace, because otherwise you're just losing a piece. Rook to d4 you cannot take on f3, and that's why he placed his king on h1, because queen to c1 is going to be met by knight to g1. Knight to f5. 20 seconds for Hans.
But that's the problem. What do you do here?
That's a big problem. That is actually a big problem. Rook to b4 probably. But then I go a5.
a5, yeah.
Yes, I think this might be over.
I think material is gonna drop 10 seconds for Hans, but there is simply no good move.
Yeah, d6. that smells like desperation. Nevertheless, probably a good attempt, good practical attempt.
What happens if I take on these? Just take on d6 with the pawn.
If you take on d6, I think he wants to go queen to a d5 check and rook takes e4.
Hey, but he's still alive.
He's still alive.
d6, maybe it wasn't the best, but it worked. Magnus was unable to find the best answer.
d6 was a good move. Absolutely.
But can he hold on with 3 seconds on the clock?
You're asking the very pertinent questions. Yeah, that's the big one. It's the clock. Like, he might be back, somewhat back in the position. Obviously, he's still fighting an uphill battle, being a pawn down, but he has chances. Nevertheless, with 3 seconds on the clock, that's so difficult to play. Because you know Magnus is going to create some problems for you.
He's spending a lot of time here. I'm curious what Magnus... I think Magnus...
20 seconds for Magnus also. This one is going to be a game. Okay, take queen to e5 perhaps, or f5.
I think Magnus will win. I think queen endgames are just too hard.
Maybe put the pawn on a5, right?
They're
Yes,
so hard anyway, but with a second on the clock.
Yeah.
I don't believe. I do not believe.
Check.
And there is...
And d5 first.
Very precise.
Pick up another pawn.
Yeah.
Give a check to cover this diagonal, so there's no more checks, and now just push the pawn. Followed by queen e3, push the pawn, get the queens on the board, and that's an easy win for Magnus.
Technique.
That's 3.5 to a half. Magnus is absolutely dominating the first half of this match.
He came to play him. We've been waiting a long time for this matchup. And well, the start has certainly gone one man's way. Magnus Carlsen with a 3.5 lead. We are going on a first break now in this 5+1 portion. Guys, we're gonna go on a short break as well. We'll be back very soon with all the remaining action from this match. Welcome back, everyone. This is the second semi-final of the Speed Chess Championship. Magnus Carlsen against Hans Niemann, and Magnus has taken a 3-point lead already. Christian, you're still muted?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Very nicely spotted, Fiona. Otherwise, I would have given my starting monologue without anybody actually listening to it. But yes, it's looking really good for Magnus. Obviously, he came in to play. He's locked in. He knows exactly what he needs to do. He knows a lot of eyes are on this match, and he wants to prove a point. And that's exactly what he's doing right now.
Magnus Carlsen, you know, when he's angry, when he really wants to win, he's a scary beast anyway. But let me tell you, I would not want to be in Hans's shoes, especially after this start. Magnus's confidence will grow with every win.
Fiona, I've seen Magnus score 9 out of 9 in a single day against the best chess players on the planet. 9 out of 9, no draws. That was one of the most impressive feats I've ever seen in terms of chess performance, especially in a rapid time control. Because how do you win 9 out of 9 games against 2750 plus players? It's really tough. And as you just mentioned, this could be a very long night at the office for Hans.
I wonder if one of Magnus's goals is to not lose a game. Do you think he could pull it off?
You mean to win a game?
To not lose a game, sorry.
Oh, well, he didn't lose the second one, right?
No, but to not lose a game in the match.
I'm trying to understand. You mean for Hans?
No, that Magnus.
Oh, Magnus. I thought you asked what's Hans's goal.
For Hans, yes. That train has gone, I'm afraid.
That's exactly what I was thinking. No, you're very much right. It could be. It could be. Look, I think he's just trying to put a dominant performance. He probably was in kind of the same situation where he didn't really know what to expect from Hans. And right now, once again, he's starting to get some answers. And yes, again, you very nicely pointed out, when he smells blood, Magnus, he's very difficult to stop. Like, he doesn't stop. He's going to put as many points on the scoreboard as he can. He's not going to take a break. He's not going to feel sorry about you, especially if your name is Hans and there's some history between you two.
Zero mercy will be
There's
shown
there's
today.
going to be absolutely zero mercy
But to be
if
fair,
it gets into that type of zone.
to be fair, I don't think I've ever seen Magnus show mercy to anyone. He's not the kind of guy like, oh, you're having a bad day at the office? Let me give you a draw.
Nope.
I understand you're struggling. That's not how you become the best of the best. You become the best by wanting to crush your opponent at every turn and every game. And what do we make of what we see here? Do you just take on f6 and try and damage the black structure?
You could go into the endgame. Yes, you could go into the endgame, take on f6. What I don't think you want to do is actually release the tension on this diagonal by playing something like bishop to f4, because then you allow me to go knight to e4, get this knight in the center, get d5 in the position, and that might actually be bad news for your structure as white. So I do think we're either going to see bishop takes f6 and go into an endgame, which I do think is slightly better for white, or just keep the tension with bishop to h4. I don't think you can go g5. A piece sacrifice would probably be deadly at that point.
Magnus, he's been spending a bit of time. He's down a minute in this game, but he goes for the end game where he has a small edge. I mean, the pawn on e2 is under attack. Do you just play e3? Do you play rook e1?
I think just e3. Just e3, just for the simple fact that you don't want to give another defensive job to the rook. Go e3, the structure is very good. Rook to d1, okay. So he's offering this pawn. He's saying, okay, if you take it, I'm going to go knight to d4. Then I'm going to go knight f5. And if I manage to get a knight on d6, you're in trouble. Hans says, I'm not taking that pawn.
Yeah, I would be very wary of taking the pawn on knight d4, defending the pawn on e2, but still looking to jump into f5 if the opportunity presents itself. I think Hans needs to move that d pawn at some point. That bishop on c8 needs to join the game.
Absolutely, and he did. He listened to you. D6. And now maybe just take. And rook takes c2. All right. Perhaps that's the way to salvage the position right now. Rook takes d6 and bishop to e6, defending the pawn on f6 at the same time. And not allowing rook to d8, of course, which would be game over. And that's exactly why he's not taking on e2. If you take on e2, I take on c5. I set up this pin with check, rook to d8, and then you're in trouble. So, big moment right now. How do you release the tension in the position? And once again, unfortunately for Hans, this is a Magnus position.
What would you say? I mean, of course we know what a Magnus position is, but where do you think Hans could possibly have an edge over Magnus? What would be a Hans position?
That's tough to say. I would say probably if you manage to get Magnus down to the last few seconds and then try to play. I mean, it's so difficult, right? In what type of position you're better than the best player on the planet? It's a difficult question to answer, right? I don't think anybody knows that answer. But if I would be to try to get something, it would be get him down to the last few seconds, and maybe I will have a chance at that point. We've seen Hans somewhat almost turn the tables in that second Italian game from a completely losing position to a slightly worse. So he managed to get something back, but yeah, it's difficult to do too many things against Magnus.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even push him down to those seconds? Even that is a tough task.
So now, what are we seeing right now? Perhaps some trades. Rook takes a7, rook takes c3. Yeah, and now this is the type of pressure that you're starting to feel, and if you don't know how to react to it, you're in trouble. Like, are you taking on c3? You have options, allowing for this rook takes b7, bishop takes c4, and perhaps this endgame. Bishop takes c4, rook takes c4, and rook takes f6.
After bishop takes c4, can't we take on c6?
Maybe rook to e1 at that point. No,
Yeah.
but what I think he wants is to just go into the rook endgame and then take on f6, and then you have too many weaknesses to deal with. f7 is a weakness, h6 is a weakness, and you're down a minute on the clock right
Yeah,
now.
Hans really feeling the pressure here. I mean, there are some moves which are still okay for him, but I don't think they're easy to find. I mean, the computer is saying rook c1. Rook c1 actually makes some sense, right? You want to take on c4, you just want to use that pin along the first rank.
The problem with rook c1 and the problem with any move in the position is that I have an easy move as white next. I go king g2. I go king g2 to break the pin. And then once again, the onus is on you to prove equality. Down to his last 20 seconds.
Is he really not making a move?
He decided for bishop to c8. But again, 17 seconds against a minute and 50.
Too much time spent on this move. I think, you know, the position is very close to equal according to the computer, but you are playing Magnus Carlsen and you're down a minute and a half on the clock. King g2, I mean, I still like what you said was kind of an automatic next move.
Rook takes f... this might not actually be good for...
No.
Or Magnus. Rook to e1.
Spot the opportunity. Rook c1, he sees it.
Okay. Oh, rook takes f1. This is what he missed. Oh my goodness.
Very nicely spotted by Hans.
That's a piece. That's a piece. Okay, you can still take on b7 and perhaps still fight.
But Hans is... Something is going on. Hans is complaining about something. This might have been a while back. No, I'm looking at actually.
Oh, you're looking at the live board right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Something happened. Hans even took off his headphones.
But they're still playing.
Something happened. I don't know what, but you'll see it soon. You'll see it in a minute.
Yes. Bishop to f5. Okay. I'm not seeing any moves. Maybe you can tell us what's happening.
The thing is, I don't see moves. I just see the camera. Something had happened. They are back to playing now, though. So, okay. I mean, this is just an extra piece. Surely Hans, and I mean, the only problem is the time. Can he keep his cool? Will he be able to get the full point despite only having 2 seconds?
Oh, that's truly a big turn of events. Because right now, Hans is winning this one. This is a big moment. This is a big moment in the match right now.
And to get a win with the black pieces as well.
Hans is getting the first win.
He draws first blood. But he was, I wonder what had happened. Maybe someone in the chat can let us know what.
Game aborted.
Hans is once again, he's complaining about something. He called the arbiter. He's right now having a conversation with the arbiter. Play has been interrupted right now. Wait 1 second. Let me actually, Christian, I'll send you because I think you missed it earlier.
Yes, I'm missing the cameras. I'll get them there.
There you go. So yeah, something is happening. There's a discussion right now going on between Hans and the organizing team. We are not too clear what is being discussed, but it looks like the play has been halted. The headphones are off. Magnus, by the way, did not take off his headphones.
Magnus is still in the zone.
Waiting.
He's still in the zone right now. I don't think it's something against Magnus. I do think right now perhaps Hans is just complaining about something happening with his monitor.
Something happened.
He's pointing at the monitor right now. Yes, there's some questions that Hans is asking right now.
Which is funny, right? Because he won the game, so it's nothing. It must have been some technical malfunction. I don't know if it's something with the headphones or something on chess.com, but something happened.
Nevertheless, This is a huge victory for him, because especially when you're in such a high stakes event, before you get that first victory, you always have the doubts in your mind. What if I don't win a single game? What if, you know, things are not going to go my way? Right now, after this victory, Hans is definitely not necessarily back in the match. Still, he's trailing by 2, but mentally, he's back. He's back, and if he can maintain the momentum, then
yeah, but
ladies and gentlemen, we have a
I mean,
match.
mentally, he's clearly shaken. Something is really, really bothering him. He is complaining severely. And we don't know what he's complaining about. I'm so curious. What happened? Magnus just looks confused, like, what is going on? Why are we not playing?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be something related to Magnus. Magnus just tries to stay out of it. Curious what Magnus is
if anyone has any information from, you know, Twitter or from the broadcast, the arbiter is now going over to Magnus.
He's very animated. he's
very animated.
Interesting.
Okay, Hans has put the headphones back on. I think we're ready. We are getting close to starting up again.
I think we're just about to be back in action. We see the chief arbiter right now speaking with Hans, discussing the situation. Magnus is already back in playing mode. You can see him focused on the screen, focused on his next few moves, perhaps trying to figure things out and think of what he's going to do next. Look, the openings have been going swimmingly for Magnus. He hasn't had a single problem. So I think he's just going to continue doing whatever he's been doing so far, which is play his game, and usually he's able to get the better position and the better out of Hans. But the discussion is still not over.
It's not over, no.
We might have been quick to jump.
They should just, you know, keep the timer going and then say to Hans, look, you want to keep discussing? The timer's running. I'm joking, of course. We don't know. We just don't know what happened. We can see it's drama, but we don't know what the drama is about. I'm so curious as well. Like, I'm always like, when I see something, I immediately want to know. So a lot of people in chat are saying getting Kramnik vibes. I mean, it is very reminiscent of the Clash of Clans, where
very reminiscent.
Interrupted at multiple moments. Maybe, you know, maybe the match gets interrupted and they come back tomorrow morning, or who knows? Who knows? I would not want to be. I mean, the arbiter, she must have known before this match that this was gonna be, could be a challenging one.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall. Yeah.
Oh, guys in the chat are telling us to be quiet, but the problem is, guys, that there's a 1 minute delay, so we're only seeing you telling us to be quiet. A minute later, it might be too late now.
Oh, so they're actually. Maybe we should have Jaron tell us when we should shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, we cannot really hear anything. Maybe everybody in the audience can actually hear something, but I cannot hear anything coming from the players. Yep. The claims continue. Okay, now it seems like he's ready to.
Chat is so angry at us, not. But guys, someone call me auntie. Stop talking auntie. Guys, we are here to talk, and we don't know when we should be quiet.
Yeah. Okay, we're trying to listen to sounds we're being told. Okay. Definitely tone it down. We're still discussing.
Okay, we can start.
Live broadcast has been, they have gone to ads.
I don't think they. Magnus was just like, okay, whatever. Let's just play.
Does anyone actually know what he's complaining about?
I don't think anybody knows. Because I know on the official broadcast they don't have any clue about what they're talking.
Okay, and so his complaint is something to do with the clock. Again, it's a bit reminiscent of a certain match which happened not so long ago.
And I think the games are about to restart, or still not ready yet. We still don't have them. Both players have their headphones on. Both players seem to be ready.
Okay,
Finally, we're off. Wow. Well, that was something. That was something. Okay, we get another Italian.
And another Italian.
Another Italian.
Finally, some action. Okay, we get a bunch of maneuvering. Have all these Italian. I'm always, I always with the Italian. Is it the same one we've seen before? Has there been a slight change? I'm so bad at noticing these things.
Bishop to d2, I believe, is a new try from Hans. He's trying to get this bishop to c3, a completely different approach, maybe even try to go for b4. We've seen knight g3 previously from Hans, knight g3 followed by knight h4 and try to get the knight to f5. So now we see a knight to d4. Magnus definitely seems to be aware of this plan of bishop to d2 followed by c4.
By the way, I just want to say, I think it was interesting to see Magnus just completely ignoring. He didn't even take off his headphones to hear what was going on, which makes me wonder, he must have thought of this possibility before. What if something happens? How am I going to react? And I think it's interesting and probably the right thing to do, to just, stay in your zone, let the arbiters handle, unless they come and talk to you, to just not get involved at all.
And to be honest, he probably expected something along these lines, right? He expected some sort of interference throughout the match. And as you just mentioned, he perhaps has already a plan of what to do. Stay in the zone. Don't try to lose focus, because focus and being in the groove is so important. And right now he is in the groove.
He is in the groove. For Hans, kicking, we don't know if what he was protesting about, what it was it correct, was it incorrect, but he is taking himself out of the zone, especially he just won his first game, which you want to stay in that, you want to stay in that winning zone. But let's see how he carries himself here. Magnus has, so far equalized, I think, against all of Hans' Italians.
Yes, I do believe he has. Knight to d7, and right now we're probably going to see some sort of pressure coming up via the b file. Then also I'm seeing this very interesting plan, knight c5, get the rook out, get the knight back, and then maybe land the knight on f4 and try to put pressure against the king. This rook on e6 is going to be playing an active role in the future. It seems like Magnus feels quite confident about this type of positions. Perhaps at some point if we see another accident, another loss by Hans with the white pieces, I think he's probably going to have to change something.
Yeah, well, we'll see. For now, Hans is still doing okay. I agree with you, but that so far it hasn't worked. But do you think he's a tiny bit better here with the white pieces?
Perhaps he is, yeah, perhaps he is. This knight on f5 again. So let's just say, what if I continue with a very natural knight c5 move? How would you continue? What is white's plan in the position? Do you want to go knight e3, knight d5? Do you want to go b4? He plays king to h7. Maybe hinting at the fact that he wants to go g6 at the right moment. G6 and not have to worry about, kick the knight out, not have to worry about the pawn on h6. But yeah, look, Hans got that victory. I mean, that was a very unexpected victory.
Yeah.
That was a tilt-inducing type of victory, right? Because you're winning the whole game, you're squeezing your opponent, you have 2 minutes against 15 seconds, I think it was, at that particular moment, and then you lose a piece in one move. A full piece in one move.
And
then
kudos to Hans, who I think he defended tenaciously, and when he got an opportunity to strike, you know, even though he had only a couple of seconds on the clock, he spotted it. So yeah, it tells you that Magnus cannot get away with everything. Hans is sharp, let's not underestimate him. He is a very strong player, he's shown that in recent months, and I think this is a big one, you know. If Hans can do something here, if he can get a second win in a row, bring the match within one point, then, you know, we might have a new match on our hands.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you get close to Magnus, 1 point behind, after starting with a 3-point deficit, getting 2 in a row, that's not an easy task. That's a task that's definitely going to give Hans a lot of confidence. And again, we know, just like Magnus, it's a very strange thing to say, but he's a confidence-based player. That is Hans. Whenever he feels like he's playing his best chess, whenever he feels he has the confidence, then, you know, he can be dangerous.
Absolutely, and well, he has reason to be confident after getting that one win. And okay, g5, Magnus taking some ground on the king side, stopping f4, I guess.
And what I'm seeing on the screen right now is a very relaxed looking Magnus, very typical of himself. He usually looks very relaxed, and perhaps he is. Hans, on the other hand, he's very fidgety. It does seem like something bothered him the last game. He's still reliving those moments. He's still thinking about that claim that he made. Perhaps something related with lag. This seems to have been the case. And I believe...
I think his complaint, if I understood correctly, was something very similar to what happened in the Kramnik's match, that suddenly, you know, the time just jumped from one thing to another. And I think, if I understood correctly, the arbiter said they would review the camera footage.
Precisely.
Yeah, so...
And they have cameras on the monitors as well, which definitely helps.
For sure. So I guess, you know, let's see if we can get through this next half hour, after which there will be a 15-minute break where hopefully all these things can be sorted out.
Yes. So what do we have now? Is Magnus in some sort of danger right now? Because f4 seems to be coming. And once f4 comes, if you do open up the h8 a1 diagonal, you're going to be in big danger, because of my bishop on c3 is going to become a monster. So yeah, no, I'm starting to like Hans's position. And by the way, once you play f4, if you allow me to continue pushing with f5 and arrest the rook on f6, you're in big trouble, right? So that's not something you can afford doing. I think this is a big moment. If Hans finds the move f4,
and I think the fact that he has paused indicates that he's thinking about it.
Yes, f4 is a big money move right now, and if he finds it, then he's in a good position to try to squeeze a win out of this one.
crucial moment. He is investing a lot of time. It's always such a tough balance to find. You
Rook
want to
d5.
invest time enough, but not too much. But yeah, he misses the opportunity. Let's see if it presents itself again. Not right now, anyway.
Yeah, knight to c6, queen to d2. Okay. Knight to d4 is going to be met by bishop takes a5. Perhaps, even though I do have the queen a7 a move in that case. So, still very difficult to assess this position. It's a very tense position, by the way. Extremely, extremely tense position. Do you think Hans is going to take?
This is one that could easily go down to a time scramble. And I'll be curious, you know, to see. I know very little about Hans's bullet skills, I have to say. So I'm curious to see how he's going to handle himself in time scrambles, but later on, especially in the whole bullet section.
Well, I mean, he did defeat MVL, mostly in the bullet section. In fact, he won it in the last game, and that was a bullet game. That was I think it was an Armageddon bullet game. They were tied after the completion of the time, and then they played one more game. So definitely he can play. He can bowl with these guys.
He's not a terrible bullet player, is what you're telling me.
Nope, not at all. Not at all. Not at all.
What do we make of this? The position has changed quite a bit. We're down to just the heavy pieces.
Yes. Yes,
heavy
pieces.
White is still pressing?
Look, I'm saying this rook on d5 is a tremendous piece. This is the difference maker in the position right now. Rook on f6, not as good as the rook on d5. Everything else is sort of similar in terms of strength right now. The question is, will you be able to make any progress as white? That is the big question. Are you actually going to be able to use this slight advantage, or will the position just fizzle out? Because whenever you play...
get into serious time trouble and make a mistake as the time ticks down. Careful, Hans. 13 seconds.
Absolutely. And whenever you play b4, you're also giving me opportunities to maybe invade with the rook via the a file. So a lot of trade-offs and a lot of decisions that will be made with a very little time on the clock.
The rook on d5 is such a funny rook as well. It's kind of trapped. Well, it's not trapped. It can go to 2b5.
c5. Whoa. d5. No, this is not... That's probably not a good move. And if you take, I take on e4. I think he missed this. Yeah, he takes e4. He definitely missed this.
Magnus did not. Queen c4. And
it's still not over. It's still not over. There's still... Look, you take. I go with the queen to d5. I'm still in your position, you know?
It's always so annoying when the queen is so close to the king, especially with little time.
Oh, queen to d8 is a big move right now, followed by d2. He finds it.
Wow.
And this is a really destabilizing move because d2 right now finishes the game.
Queen d1.
And a4. What a move. Rook to d8 was winning. Now Hans seems to be back in the game. Nevertheless, again, we're playing with 1 second on the clock. b2. b2, follow it up with rook takes f3. That queen was
both his gambits.
And
to end the game. Wow. I mean, Hans had his chances. Maybe not even. He was better, slightly better at some point. Then it got messy. Then he was lost. Then he was defending. But I think you can't let yourself go down to just 2 seconds. Of course, that's easier said than done. But in that danger zone, it's just too difficult when there is the life in the position to hold on.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And look, there's a blueprint for Magnus. He knows what he wants to play in this match. Is this c4, g3, d3 idea that we've seen actually being played at the top level in classical games as well quite recently. Fabiano played it, Anish played it at the Singfield Cup as well. So definitely something that's in fashion as of right now. And it seems like something that Magnus might have analyzed and might have decided that it's a good try, good attempt to try to get a game and try to outplay his younger opponent.
And what do you make of what he's gotten? It's still early doors, but I guess this is exactly the position Magnus wanted to play.
Yes, absolutely. The big problem right now and this one is a queen on a6. Because that queen on a6 is forever going to be in a very bad situation. How do you get it back? The only way that I see it is via a5 and perhaps c7, but that loses. And by the way, I think you have to do it right now. You have to address that. Either with c5 to stop me from going b4, either with queen to a5. c5 weakens the pawn on a d5 as well. So, and by the way, it seems like Magnus still knows what he's doing. Perhaps he has analyzed this type of positions before at home. He seems like the better prepared player right now.
Hans has been playing quite quickly as well, though. It's hard to say what is going on. Magnus, the first to go into the tank after rook fc8.
Yes.
I don't know. Do you have to step out of the c file, or are you happy to stay there? I guess there's no threats yet.
Maybe a knight to f5. Try to. Rook to d1, yes. This looks like a decent move as well. Bishop to f8, getting the bishop out of dodge, perhaps missing an opportunity with knight g4. Can I take now? And I think this was Magnus's plan all along. Look, I'm going to try to reinforce everything and all the threats via the d file once I open up the d file and get to the isolated queen pawn. So I think it's time to take on c5.
And
He decides against it, h3.
and can black start jumping? I don't know. I want to get that knight from d7 to a better square. I see the computer says knight e4, but I don't understand why. Why is that not just losing a pawn?
Yeah, that's a very good. Well, I mean, if you take with the knight, then you're opening up the action of the rook, and maybe I can take on d4 as well. And if you do take with the bishop, then you're going to give up the h3 pawn, and you're also giving up the bishop. So knight d4, if you look at it, yes, it does look like a very decent move. Whether he's going to find it, that's a different question. And he did.
I guess he can still do it now. Okay, he does find it.
Yes, but I do believe that's a little bit of a different situation right now, because I can take on e4, you take on h3. Maybe I can even try to go for g4 and queen f3, by the way. g4 and that bishop on h3. It's kind of locked.
Yeah, and the bishop is a monster on d4, stopping any knight jumps to f6 or to e5.
He decided against it, and that gives Hans some opportunities, I think. Yeah, now it's starting to turn. This one is no longer a slightly better position for white. It might actually just simply be worse.
Yeah, and Hans is doing well on the clock.
Knight comes to c5, try to go towards a b3. No, this is looking good right now. And by the way, bishop takes a3, wins a pawn.
Very nice. And that should be spottable. Sometimes these tactics are so hidden, though. I mean, because you don't really expect them. But yeah, bishop g7, and then what happens?
Maybe he doesn't win a pawn. Maybe he doesn't win a pawn. No, bishop takes a3, bishop takes g7. We're kind of exchanging those two pawns. And the question is, which one is more valuable? Hans says probably... Oh, rook to c3, okay. And he's playing fast.
Yeah.
This is a good sign for Hans right now. This is a good sign for Hans. And
it's
Magnus
not a fun
doesn't
position
seem
for
to-
Magnus to play, you know. I think this is his bread and butter with the black pieces, but Magnus has to be on the defensive now. His pawns on d3, on a3 are weak.
And you can see it on his face. He really dislikes this position. Right now, he doesn't feel like... He feels like something went wrong. And it did. Because he had a good position out of the opening, and right now he has to defend.
Magnus is burning a lot of time on the clock, which is also another sign that he does not like his position. I mean, okay, knight h4. I didn't expect the knight to go that direction.
Yeah, this is a very intriguing move. What does Magnus want with this one? What does Magnus want with this move? Because you're not going to f5. I guess you can go to f5 after g4, but that seems like a long road. So, wait a minute. Something tells me that opening up this diagonal would not necessarily be the right way to approach the position. But Hans says it doesn't really matter. I do have time to go rook d8. I do have time to drop the bishop back to c8 and still protect the pawn on d5.
I like the way he's handling this right now. Magnus down to 1.5 minutes. Bentley in the chat is saying this is going to be real exciting or real boring really soon. Which of the two do you think it's going to be?
Oh, we're trying to be in the future, right? Because this will air like a minute from now. So let's say I'm going to go with this one is going to turn into a really exciting game.
No, I think he meant the match, right?
Oh, it's going to be exciting no matter what.
Exciting match.
No matter what. I mean, look,
Yeah.
even if Magnus gets like a +5 advantage, it's still going to be an exciting match for the simple fact that you don't know, will Hans get some victories, right? And everybody's looking for something from him. Everybody's looking for a hint at what he can do.
Yeah, I think for Hans, even if he loses the match, if it's close, you know, if he shows he can hang with Magnus, that will be even a little victory in itself.
Right, and I'm sure he doesn't want to lose this match. I mean, there's
not.
absolutely no doubt about it. He's coming here to win this one. But of course, given the start of this match, given that he was down so much, already 3 points, actually, he is down still 3 points. He needs a couple of victories to get back in this match.
I think it was important to get that one win, and well, right now he is doing better on the board, also on the clock. So can he convert this? It would be funny if he got another win with the black pieces. So far, he hasn't been able to show anything, you know, with white. But
Knight takes e4, knight takes f7, perhaps. f6 is an idea as well. Try to drag the king and then give a check on d7. But I think knight f6, yes, this seems to be a very decent move by Magnus.
Getting very, very sharp now, actually, after king g8, bishop d5. Okay, takes on d4.
Rook takes a3. Yeah, this one is...
Okay, not
is
so sharp.
extremely sharp.
I was dreaming of some... But even this endgame could become is in a way very sharp.
Oh, it's very sharp. And I think after rook takes a3, what Magnus needs to spot is bishop to a2, which is extremely difficult. Rook takes h3 he goes for. Okay. That's an interesting decision. Rook to d2. Good move by Magnus. Rook h2, king g3. We're going to see the trade. I don't think you have time to go for this pawn. I think you're just simply going to get checkmated after rook to e2, rook e8. Bishop c8, king f4.
Magnus putting the squeeze on suddenly.
He certainly is. He certainly is. And by the way, bishop a2 is a big, big move right now. Bishop to f3 also keeps the pressure. King h8, meeting rook d8 with rook g8. Very nice move by Hans. Rook h2, king h7, by the way. Perhaps the only move in the position right now, or one of the only moves in the position. Allowing bishop to e4, not an easy thing to do. Now g5. Now g5, and now rook d2. And once you take on g5, I go king e5. If he manages to find that move, and he does, this is now...
How does he do it?
This is now huge pressure on Hans, because if you take on g5, you're lost after king to e5. King h8 right now might be the only move to save it.
I think that's impossible.
It's such a difficult move to make.
Such a hard move, just so that you have rook g8, right?
With 20 seconds on the clock, if he finds king h8, I mean, look, give it to Hans. What a move. What a defensive move. If he finds it, and he finds it. Wow.
He does find it. He's still not out of the woods, but
not yet.
Impressive that he found it.
Yeah, huge move. Huge defensive move. Let's see. Let's see if he manages to survive king to g8. He continues, and Magnus tries another way to bamboozle his opponent with no, he found it. He found the right way, it seems like.
I'm very impressed with how Hans is handling himself. You know, I had some questions about his skills with little time, but I'm starting to see some answers. The game ends in a draw, and I really think this was an impressive defensive effort.
Yeah, absolutely. No, King H8, I mean, come on. Those are not easy moves to find. Really, really difficult moves to find with 10 seconds on the clock. So definitely Hans is answering some questions very positively.
Yeah, and I see, I mean, the chat is a minute behind, so they haven't seen the end of the game yet, but someone said, look at Hans crumble, but Hans crumble, but he didn't crumble, and I think it's, yeah, as I said, very impressive stuff to not crumble against Magnus under that pressure. Anyway, we have another...
Oh, the chat
Italian...
was wrong? No, the chat is never wrong.
I guess, that's my bad.
She should know better than Oh...
Hans is not mixing it up yet. He still believes in his Italian, and we got a slightly different setup here.
It's a different... The same Italian that he tried the last game, with bishop to d2.
Oh, yeah.
For which, by the way, he got a good position out of the opening. He definitely got a good position out of the opening. Now, the question is whether Magnus has decided to shift things around. And it seems like the answer is yes. I think knight to d7 was the move we've seen in the previous game. Now we see bishop to d4. He's trying to cement that bishop on d4 with c5.
Okay, and if you're white, I guess you never really want to take on d4.
Yeah, it's a big decision. I mean, at some point you probably will have to. The question is when, you have to time it, and the question is with what you're going to take it, with the bishop, maybe with the knight. I think the answer is probably going to be with the bishop, but that is a big decision. That is a huge structural transition. And yeah, to be honest, whenever I see a piece cemented like that in the center, I usually just instinctively feel that whoever has that piece in the center has a better position. So forget about the bar. I don't know, from a practical perspective, it doesn't feel like white is better, but perhaps it is. Perhaps he actually is.
Can Hans go for an attack on the king side?
He's definitely trying.
I don't know, I was thinking about some g4, but I understand the rook on e6 could very easily swing over, so that rook on e6 does a great job deterring my aggressive intentions. Hans instead first consolidates on the queen side b3. I guess he will bring the rook from b1 into the game.
Yes, we're probably going to see something like... Okay, so Hans decides to go for b4 for that break, which makes a lot of sense. If you think about it, what b4 does, not only that it potentially creates a pass pawn on the b file, but also if you take, then that's going to weaken the bishop on d4, which is going to allow me to take, and maybe that's going to give me a better structure. That's Hans's idea right now. What do we think about knight to g8? Queen d3, okay. Queen d3.
I'm sorry, I'm letting you. I'm leaving you on your own. I don't know, I just crashed out for a second. I was just looking at the...
What?
I could still hear you talk, but it was almost like the words weren't really reaching me. And then I was like, what do you think about knight g8? No idea. The knight from g8 has come out to e7 again. It's gonna maybe... Where is it? Where does that knight ideally want to go? To f5 again? Maybe? Okay, no, he takes... So maybe
to e5. To e5. Yeah. No, I'm starting to...
I meant f4, by the way.
I'm starting to like lack a little bit better, because as you just pointed out, this knight is coming to e5, right? And if you try to stop it with f4, that's going to give me a perpetual target, the pawn on e4.
By the way, I'm sorry, but why has chat started calling me auntie? I don't know how I feel about that.
I mean, we're not getting any younger, Fiona.
No,
We're not getting any younger. None of us are getting any younger.
I've had many names, some nicer than others, but auntie,
I've had people call
I
me
can't say
Mr.
that I like it.
Sir, Uncle. Yes, it's all
Uncle
good.
Chris.
It's all good.
Anyway, the position has once again changed. Hans is still looking for some action on the king side. F4 has been pushed, knight c6.
Yeah, I like knight c6. Again, it's all about trying to get that e4 pawn, trying to get to that target. Once you play f4, and you probably have to, because again,
what about
you need to
playing
stop it from
e5
knight e5.
yourself with a check? Can you just get rid? What if I just play e5 and take on d6 and just say, look, I just.
You probably have to. You probably have to at some point. But once, ooh, b4. Okay, okay. Can I take?
Take.
Maybe rook e8. A rook e8. Maybe I can even go for some knight takes b4 and rook a2 ideas.
Magnus is taking some time. Well, he has plenty of time still. He must be considering this endgame. I don't know. Would you take if you're black?
I probably wouldn't. I would probably just. But the problem is you're actually having a big threat right now in the position as white, and e5 followed by bishop takes d6. So that's why we see king g8. He wanted to get out of it, but he also wanted to maintain the knight on the board. I like this decision by Magnus.
But how do you increase the pressure on e4? You're gonna play queen e7 now? Okay, Hans is taking some action. What, bishop f4?
He has to go for bishop f4. But now rook c5. I'm starting to look at a lot of your weaknesses, and if I force you to trade on it, look, I'm looking at the position. I feel once again, and I've been saying this for a very long time, and I've repeated it a few times, this is once again a Magnus type of position. He has no weaknesses, and he has some weaknesses to play with in his opponent's camp. And this is what he's so good at. He's going to find the glitch in your armor, and he's going to exploit that.
I'm a little bit. I'm starting, to get on board with what you said earlier. I'm a bit surprised that Hans keeps sticking to the Italian, and he hasn't. I can't remember a single one where he got a really promising position out of the opening. So I'm curious to see how long will he stick to it, or is he going to mix it up?
Rook b5 is a good move. Rook b5 is a really good move. Good move by Hans. Look, we've been following a very good match so far.
Yeah.
Forget about the score difference. Forget about the fact that Hans is down 3 games right now in the match. It's a big deficit. But he's been playing good chess. Whether you like to give it or not to him, he's been playing very decent chess. And he defended some very unpleasant positions against Magnus.
And he's creating some threats now. Queen g3, bishop takes h6 is maybe in the air in some moments. So
f6, good move by Magnus. That's the problem with Magnus. He's such a good player, and he will find the best ways to put the pressure on you. He will find them. Like, there's absolutely no doubt. Even in this format, forget about the classical, forget about the times when he can think. Even when he doesn't, instinctively, he's the best player on the planet.
I mean, there's a reason he's been dominating world chess for as long as he has. I've lost count of how long he's been world #1.
Rook takes c4. Wait a minute. Now it's starting to look a little bit dangerous for Hans. Rook takes c4. I guess the only defense would be to go queen to b3, try to set up this pin. If you take on h6, I take on e5, and I follow it up with queen takes c4. Otherwise, after rook to c4, rook c3 is coming. Rook b3, rook c3, and that creates a pass pawn on the c file. This cannot be good. This cannot be good for Hans. Rook c3, rook takes c3. Yes, d takes c3. You cannot touch that pawn because you're losing the bishop on h6, and this pawn should be the difference maker.
This is trouble again. Hans is also very low on the clock, just 10 seconds remaining, but can he somehow liquidate?
I don't see a way. I really don't see a way.
So.
Yeah, king h2, but I mean, I can take on e4. I can even just push the pawn first. This is just looking like one of those very difficult positions to defend. And 3 versus... Let's see.
Gonna be a long fight unless, you know.
Let's see how this one pans out. The problem is Magnus has this pass pawn. The e pass pawn is extremely potent. Queen e5, put the queen in the center.
On the other hand, the black king is quite exposed. The white queen is threatening to come into g5.
Yes. No, I think objectively, this position might be a draw. But objectively, I mean, it's very difficult to assess queen endgames objectively. There's always going to be practical chances.
But it's difficult for black to make progress, maybe, right? Because
he's going to start pushing the king.
To bring
king
the
up.
king.
That's what he's going. He's going to try to hide the king somehow. And right now you can see king f7 is already supposedly winning. Hide the king.
He never misses.
He never misses.
No.
He does not miss. He does not miss because now you have to defend against checkmate. And while you do that, I'm just simply going to start pushing my pawn. Oh, never mind. Even easier. I'm just going to get your king and checkmate you.
And Magnus gets a big win. He has taken a 4-point lead. So this is the biggest lead we've seen in the match so far. This will be the last game of 5+1.
Yep. 4 points difference right now. With Magnus perhaps losing a game that he shouldn't have lost. So if you are Magnus, you're probably feeling quite good about your performance so far.
Absolutely. I think Magnus, you know, he's only lost one game, and that was a game he was dominating. He fell for a one-move tactic, but overall, I mean, Magnus has shown some great chess. I think some great composure. He has, you know, we all know the history of Magnus and Hans, but Magnus, if I didn't know, you know, coming into tonight that there had been all the drama, all the history between the two players, from looking at Magnus, I couldn't tell that there's anything particular about this match.
That's why he's so good. Again, I've been saying it. If he can manage this type of, let's say, pressure, if you might want to call it, the trash talk, your career is over if you don't beat me type of situation, in which Hans is trying to put him. Hans has been talking a lot, obviously, everybody knows that. And if he can manage to shield that away, which he seems to be an expert at, in his whole career, his experience speaks for itself. He's won 5 world championships. He's defended his title against the best chess players on the planet. He's been going through every single experience that you can go through as a chess player. And look, it's going to be very difficult to take him out of his element. It doesn't seem like the trash talk has taken him out of his element.
Absolutely not. And well, actually, Magnus switched things up. He hadn't played e4 so far in this match. Is this his first e4 game?
I think it's his first e4. Yes. It's his first e4, and I'm trying to... Oh, yes. The last game, he wasn't happy with the opening. The last game, he was quite upset with the fact that he gave Hans chances. Hans was better in the last game, in that c4, g3 English. Right now, he's trying something new. He's testing his opponent. He's testing the waters to see...
But interesting that Hans is coming out fighting with the Sicilian.
Yeah. I mean, look, perhaps right now Hans understands that he needs some wins. He needs to get back into this match. And right now he's facing a 4-point deficit. Definitely looking for some wins.
He is looking for some wins. How is this one looking? He's just played b5. I never know how to, you know, this pawn structure where black has the double pawns on the e file, but it means an open d file. Is that enough? I mean, do you think black is just doing fine here?
For the record, I did the same thing as you did. I kind of blacked out for a second. But he started asking me questions, and now I kind of snapped out of it. Yes, knight to e3, probably knight to g4. He's trying to go for the attack against the king, but I do feel like black is just having a very fine position. Nothing to worry about. f5, now that lashes out. That's an aggressive move by Hans.
Aggressive, but is it good?
That's a good question. I'm going to take. I think I have to take. I don't think I can afford not exchanging that. And now you're facing the music. Look, you got some space. You opened up your bishop. Everything is looking good. The problem is you created some weaknesses as well. So...
Okay, I guess Hans's idea is to play rook f6 at some point, swing the rook over, I mean, the bishop on b7 is the best black piece. It is a monster right now.
The problem with rook f6, I think I can just simply go d4, perhaps even take on c4, and you're losing the f5 pawn. You're losing the f5 pawn, and with the rook on f6, I have ideas of bishop to g5. Also, once this rook leaves the f file, I can pick up the pawn on f5, and the pawn on f5 is an extremely good pawn. Now, the big question, and what Hans needs to focus on, is try to find some activity for this bishop. I think he's playing it correctly. Perhaps not the best right now. Bishop to d7. Bishop to c5 is my guess. He's trying to focus on this pawn. The problem is I can just simply play bishop to e3. That cancels all of your threats. And if you're losing another pawn, the problem is once you lose f5, like I'm hitting h7, and I'm hitting e4 as well.
You know, I was just thinking, because, you know, I zoned out earlier, you did. Of course, this is a very a long day of chess, and the players, okay, we looked at both matches, but I think even one match of SCC is incredibly tiring for the players. But I was just thinking, you know, the players, they're in the same time zone as me. It's 20 to 11 in the evening. This match is probably gonna finish, you know, at close to 1 a.m. It would be very, very late. So I just wonder if tiredness at some point will affect the players. I have no idea where Hans lives at the moment. Is he in Europe?
I think he's in Europe. And I think he's been in Europe for a while. He's definitely not living in the US. I believe he's used to be in London. I don't know, with all of these matches and all of the traveling that he's been doing, perhaps he's relocated, but he's living somewhere in Europe. I don't think he's jet lagged.
So jet lag, not an issue.
Neither is Magnus.
Hikaru probably the only player to be affected. I have no idea how early he got to Paris. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Magnus, meanwhile, is making progress here. Well, he did pick up a pawn.
Yeah, no, that's Magnus.
Christian, another Magnus position?
This is not a Magnus position. This is a winning position, no matter what your name is. And... look, it's
those two connected pawns. They're coming. Quite tasty.
They're coming. Yes, and they're going to be pretty fast. Also, I don't see the counterplay. I'm seeing Magnus putting his bishop on b5, setting up a very nasty, maybe rook to d4 first, maybe even a rook a7. Whenever you go f4, I just simply go king f2. And you're not threatening anything is the problem. You're not actually having any threats in the position. It's a very bad situation for Hans. And with the time, right now, 30 seconds against 2 minutes and 40, we're seeing Magnus just simply dominate.
This will be this is officially the last game of this 5+1. The timer is out. And if Magnus converts this, he's going to go into the next portion with a 5-point lead already. And would you say that as the time controls get shorter, that's going to favor Magnus, or do you think it could favor Hans?
As I don't know about the time, but I can tell you about the length of the match. The longer the match progresses, the more Magnus is going to be favored, in my opinion, because he's just getting more information, and he's very good at processing the information that he's getting. The details about the way his opponent plays, he's doing that in a tremendous fashion, just analyzing everything in real time. And that is one of Magnus's biggest strengths. And I think as the match progresses, and especially with a lopsided score, this is just simply going to be a walk in the park for Magnus.
But is he letting this one slip a little bit? Suddenly it doesn't look as easy as it was just a few moves ago.
Yes, but still within range. But again, we're seeing the situation in which Magnus has 2 minutes on the clock, Hans with 8 seconds, and somehow getting back. But now C4, yeah, I'm not convinced that there's anything anymore.
I slept on the fact that Hans is down to just seconds again.
4 seconds, yeah. 4 seconds. And by the way, rook h8. I don't think you can go bishop f5, because then I just simply push my pawn. b6, b7. Yeah, b6, b7. No way to stop me. b7 take, and rook takes h7 wins on the spot. Magnus finds it. That finishes the first portion of the match, 90 minutes of 5+1, and at the end of it, Magnus with an absolutely dominant 7-2 score. +5. What do you think of the first 5+1 section, Fiona?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Somehow, I think the score feels very one-sided, but the games I think were all in all quite fighting, and Magnus often in the final moments, it's not like Magnus crushed him start to finish in every game. I think we saw a lot of fighting games, but Magnus just doing what he does best in the critical moments of the game, showing his class. So I think Hans has put up a decent fight, but Magnus is just in great form, and he is showing that he is the better player.
And I think a pressing question right now that we need answers to is, who does Hans have in his corner? We know that by the books, by the rules, you can have one guest in the playing hall. Do you think it's Kramnik?
I think we would have seen on social media right now if Kramnik was around.
Perhaps Kramnik is the one that gives him pointers. He's been, Hans has been calling him his life coach.
Yeah.
Do you know what a life coach?
I wouldn't be shocked if Kramnik is in Paris, but I would be shocked. I mean, especially with Kramnik's, all of his recent comments about chess.com. I don't think he's gonna just walk in there.
What do you think a life coach does? What do you think the assignments of a life coach are?
Your questions are too deep, Christian. I think it depends, are we talking
we're ready for a break. I think we're ready for a break.
A regular life coach, or are we talking a Kramnik life coach?
A chess life coach. A chess life coach. Well, anyway, chat, you think about it. You think about that question. Fiona, maybe you'll think about that question as well. Come back with answers.
I'll spend the entire break on it. Promise. Guys, we'll be back in 12 minutes or so for the 3+1 portion. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. This game could be any different?
The same Italian and the same structure that we've seen so many times. Right now, maybe slightly different, because we didn't see this knight to d4 come as early. Knight to d7 allowing the move a b4, and now rook to b1. So it's a bit of a different transition, because previously the pawn was resting on a b2, supporting the bishop on c3, and then we were seeing all those structural transitions. We're not seeing that right now. We're seeing a battle between a good knight on f5 and a tremendous bishop on d4. How do you see this one playing out, Fiona?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, right? You talked about those positions, those pieces which are placed. This bishop is never going to be removed from d4. You can play around it, you can take it if you want, but I'm with you. I think Hans's idea will be to play on the queen side, on the king side. So far, I have to say I like it for white, but now we get this tension, complete tension all over the queen side. I always find those spots tricky, so I don't know if you have any words of advice how to handle, you know, which pawn do I take, when do I take? I've asked these questions a million times. I know there is no common answer.
That's the difficult situation that you're facing whenever there's this bishop on d4. Now, the thing is, and Hans is doing the right thing right now, is he played b4, again, the same tactic of destabilizing the bishop on d4. You have to do that. So as you just mentioned, you cannot really go around. I mean, you can go around it. You can capture it, but that's going to allow a very strong structure in the center to remain there. Or there's a third option, which seems Hans is showing us right now, and that is to destabilize the bishop with the move b4. Now, if you don't exchange on a b4, if you keep the pawn on b4, then I'm just simply going to pass with a b5, and perhaps that's not something that Magnus wanted. That's why he took on b4, bishop takes b4. This is what we have right now. It's going to be, once again, a battle between rook to c8, maybe try to target this pawn on c4, take, queen takes d4, a pawn sacrifice, and maybe knight to e5 to re-establish the material balance.
Magnus, no interest in a pawn sacrifice. He drops the bishop back to c5, and I guess Hans is going to try to hold on to his own bishop. Maybe?
Yes.
At least I don't think he should take on c5 and allow Magnus to get the knight to c5 with a tempo.
Probably not. Probably not, because and as we just said that he went for it.
Say it.
But now I can even go something like a g6. In fact, g6 might be a tremendous move. I don't know if he's looking, if Hans or if Magnus is looking in that direction to give up the h6 pawn for the a5 pawn, but that is a pretty good exchange, because once I get the a5 pawn, this pawn is running down the board.
Yep.
By the way,
e6.
we have been told just before we were about to come back in that he did show up with somebody, but not with a chess player. With somebody, Hans,
we should just tell our viewers, if they weren't here, we were talking about the players are allowed to bring one person, and we were wondering, who did Hans bring?
And apparently not a chess player, or perhaps that's what we've been told. And apparently it was somebody that looked like a security guard. So, you know, that's possible. Look, he has a lot of fans and a lot of people that want to meet him around
Very
Paris.
early in the stream, somebody mentioned in the chat that Norwegian TV had approached Hans for an interview. Hans said no. Then the Norwegian TV said that, you know, they have the rights to they bought rights to this show, and it's in the contract that he has to give an interview. And then Hans just got his bodyguard to shield, and he said, I will only talk to you if chess.com force me to. And that person who said that in the chat much earlier today mentioned that then Hans got his bodyguard to just, you know, get them to back off.
Wow.
It's funny, I just read it in the chat. I haven't seen any of that, you know, on Twitter, but the fact that we're now hearing he showed up probably with a bodyguard, it makes me think, no, I know our chat is capable of a lot, but would somebody really make up that story? It seems oddly specific to make up.
It does. But looking at the position, just to get back to the chess for a second, it does seem like Magnus is in trouble right now.
Okay, your second is up. Let's go back to talking about the bodyguard.
The bodyguard is what people want to talk about. My goodness. Yeah.
No, what is going? Sorry, when
difficult
did this?
To say. Queen,
when
Queen?
did this?
Go ahead.
I did actually look away from the chess for a second, and suddenly I see +4, and I have no idea
That's why I wanted to go back to the chess, but look, I understand.
My apologies.
No, the bodyguard is an extremely important topic as well. By the way, I do think that right now he might be in a losing position after rook b8. I think you're getting checkmated. g5, I go h5. I force you to take, otherwise you get checkmated. Check, king g6, queen e8, rook f7. You have to do that to cover up, and then rook f8, I think, just wins on the spot. I don't think there's anything else. I think this is just forced.
Very nicely spotted. h5, a winning shot. Will Hans find it with under 20 seconds on the clock? He finds it.
I think he will.
I think he is gonna get his second win of the match here.
Yeah.
As there is nothing for Magnus to do. Rook h8? Where is the bloody mate?
The problem is I have 3 major pieces that are going to do something, and it's not going to be fun. King f7,
and
queen
that
e8.
Is it. Magnus resigns. King f7. There is queen e8, mate. And Hans gets the second win. Off to a strong start in the 3+1 portion. You know, can he make this close? He will be happy, you know, to get a win here, get off to this new time control.
Oh, this is a huge win. Huge win. Yes, huge win, because it almost feels like a, you know, obviously it's a match, but it almost feels like a new match has started, right? When you're switching the time formats, the score, sure, the overall score is in Magnus's favor, but the 3+1 score is 0-0. So there's something to look forward to. There's something to, you know, get excited and motivated about. And again, we've seen Hans thrive in those situations. That's exactly what we're seeing right now. Great start for Hans. Will Magnus be able to repay this debt immediately?
Yeah, and you know, I said before the break, I was wondering, is the faster time control going to favor Magnus? I mean, Hans looks like he's out to prove a point. Maybe the faster time controls will favor him more than Magnus. Time will tell. Very early stages in this portion. We got another Cillian here, which some kind of Alapin.
This is the type of position in which, to be honest, right now, Magnus has excelled. I remember this, we've had this game before, and Hans did not manage to equalize. He equalized in most of the English openings that have been played so far. He did not equalize in the E4 openings that have been played so far. So definitely Magnus has spotted a weakness, and he's trying to exploit it right now.
How are you looking to exploit it? Are those knights gonna be doing some jumping again?
Yep, absolutely. We're going to see, well, this is a very typical Rui Lopez structure. Knight is going to come to g3, maybe even g4. I have my eyes set on to try to expand, try to get even more space in on the king side, excuse me. And what black is going to try to do is gain some space on the queen side. The problem is, in the Rui Lopez, you usually have this exact same position with the bishop on d7. And that's a much more different position, because you need the b file to set up some sort of an attack. You need the bishop on d7 to protect the pawn on a4 once you capture it. So I'm seeing this as a much better version of the Rui Lopez, of the typical Rui Lopez. So I think Magnus can be quite happy with the outcome of the opening.
Sorry, Christian, I got sidetracked by the chat. Like, the chat is discussing Hans and, you know, his personality, his interviews, and I can't tell if I think they were being serious. Cloud is saying, I agree, Hans needs someone to tell him when to stop the weirdly aggressive persona. Not sure about his personal life, but he could use a life coach, which is so funny.
So this is what a life coach does, yeah? It just kind of reins you in. It keeps you in on a tight leash, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not sure, you know. To be perfectly honest, I think Hans has been wronged. I think, some of the stuff he's been through has no doubt been very tough, and I think some of it was not deserved, but I agree that he's not done himself any favors with the way in which he has presented himself sometimes. So I think it's a complicated issue, but I do agree. I think Hans could do with some positive influence in his life. Someone, to I think the way he's handling it is maybe not the way to go to get that, to set the record straight. And I'm afraid that, getting Kramnik to be that person is not the way.
Look, they seem to be in very good, in a very good relationship after. It started in a rocky way, right? Kramnik was not very happy with the way Hans was generally handling himself.
Wasn't Kramnik accusing him? Oh, am I
exactly around the chess world? He just wasn't very happy, and then apparently they had some sort of a training camp in Switzerland or something like that, and everything got erased. And
the bromance.
It started. That's how it started.
I mean, it's an arc that I have to admit, I did not see that one coming. The chess world, both of us have been around it for so long, and I think both of us are generally quite well informed. But if somebody had told me that suddenly Hans, who was literally accused by Kramnik, that suddenly the two of them would be besties.
That was an interesting arc.
I did not see that one coming.
That was a very interesting change of pace, for sure. Oh my goodness. Should we talk about the game, Fiona? Or...
Let's do it.
We've kind of fallen through the cracks in terms of game analysis for good reason. I mean, these are important topics, and I'm sure a lot of people will be speculating on this newly found best friendship. But how is this one? Do we take on a5? Yes. He's like, okay, of course I'm going to take on a5. Knight to d3, and Hans is trying to find the counterplay. Knight to g5, the queen is coming to h5, the knight is coming to e6, perhaps a move. And by the way, queen to f1, that protects nicely. f3, that protects nicely. But still, this move, queen to c6, was a good move. Really good move. Wait a minute. Queen to g. Whoa.
What is going on?
I'm not really sure what's going on. I think the two players are just basically right now playing fast because they have to. They have to because they're in deep time trouble situation right now. Bishop to f6. Is Hans just simply better right now?
I mean,
I think Hans is just better.
He has a
take rook takes c6. Rook e7. Was that a mouse slip? No, this must not have been a mouse slip.
There's mate on g2.
Okay. Rook a6. Oh, that's a good move. That is actually a very
I mean, the tactics are flying over my head at the moment. Everything is hanging.
Rook b6, rook a7. Wait a minute. Rook takes c6 is a huge one. But right now, rook takes c6 once again. Huge moment. And I think Magnus might have...
What?
Oh my goodness. He had rook takes c6. Oh my goodness, he had rook takes c6. Now he's just winning. He has two extra pawns, which are going to do the job. Oh my goodness, huge match, this one. This actually could have turned the tables. Hans had a winning position. If he would have scored the full point, that would have been a 3-point deficit and definitely a match that can be a match situation that can be exploited.
I have to say, I'm sure I'm not alone, chat, please back me up, but that critical time scramble phase of the game flew right over my head. It all happened so fast.
Yes.
I was basically, I was just sitting here watching the eval bar. What's happening? And then suddenly winning queen endgame. We've seen this one before.
Yeah. Look, I mean, I guess the best way to explain this whole Hans and Kramnik situationship, if you might call it. I don't know how to call it.
I always thought the situationship was something else, but okay.
I don't know. Again, look, I'm an old school guy. I don't know exactly all these new terms, whether they mean anything or not. It's a situation, so I guess I'll call it a situationship. I think it's just the enemy of my enemy is my friend type of situation. Kramnik obviously not very happy with chess.com. Magnus, I keep calling Hans Magnus. Hans, the same. They just made buddies because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, is that really the main foundation of what? I mean, I was shocked, when Hans played when Kramnik played Jose in London, Hans showed up. Then Hans plays Bakuro in Paris, Kramnik shows up. I mean, clearly they are enjoying each other's company, and yeah, I'm curious to see how this arc is going to develop. Should we talk about the game?
I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure. Maybe we shouldn't. But yeah, how is this one? I think Magnus is doing fine. I think Magnus in fact after knight g4 might even be better if he finds it. Knight g4 is a big move because I take back. Not only that I'm targeting the h2 pawn, but also knight f3 is coming. Knight e2. Knight f5. Okay. I'm seeing some knight g1, knight f3. Look, despite the fact that Magnus obviously is winning quite a few games and he's having a very good match result so far, I still feel that Hans is playing pretty decent chess.
I completely agree. I think the score is severe in a way compared to what Hans has shown, but that's what it comes down to in chess, in those critical moments, who can hold their nerve better, who is sharper with seconds on the clock. And Magnus has taken most of these tense games, which could have gone either way.
Exactly. All of the games that, look, even the one that Hans won, none of them have been straightforward. The first one that he won, the one that got him on the scoreboard, he was completely losing. Yeah. And he had very little time on the clock. But the ones that Magnus has won, a lot of them have been very double-edged, and a lot of them have been decided in the last few seconds. It just seems like Magnus right now overall is a more complete player when it matters.
But this one, is Magnus under some pressure here again?
Certainly, yes, certainly. The question is, once again, how do you make progress? I understand maybe white is better, you have two bishops, you have some pressure on this diagonal, you can always take on a g4, maybe even try to hint at kicking the knight away with h3 in the future. But how do you make progress? What is the best progress plan in the position?
You tell me.
No, I'm asking you the hard questions here. I don't think any of the players know, but what Hans is doing very well is staying up on time.
Okay, so let's try and find, just like that's another thing that's crazy to me, the evaluation is quite strongly in white's favor, and white makes a few moves where I feel like, okay, that makes sense. That's, just slowly improving, and suddenly, bang, we're almost back to equality. So it tells you, even in these positions, like, you always need to act so, there's no time to lose. I have no idea how Hans could have improved. Maybe the position is still better for him.
That's what he's trying to do. You remember I was mentioning bishop f1 and h3. He decided to go for bishop g2, and now probably at some point he's going to try to go for h3. You have to address the problem of the knight on g4, which creates a lot of tension in the position. Now the question is, how are you going to time it? Are you going to time it to perfection? Because you also have to do that. Now, for example, after bishop c5, I have ideas of knight f2. You go h3, I go knight f2, and I'm starting to feel like I have a lot of ideas in the position. Knight h1, knight takes h3, knight e4 as well is potentially on the cards. So this one is starting to become extremely double-edged right now.
Yeah, and with the time ticking down, 30 seconds for Hans, he really needs to make a move here. There's rook f1.
Stopping knight f2.
Okay, stopping knight f2, that makes sense.
Maybe rook e8, try to double up on the b file. That could be an idea.
Okay, he does it a different way. Does he? Yeah, but this... can you still go rook b7 here?
Can I take? That's some crazy talk. That's some crazy talk. But take on g3 maybe would have been an interesting tactic. Obviously something that, you cannot really do easily with only a few seconds on the clock. Bishop c5. At some point, something's going to have to give, because we're at the point where both players are very much down on time, 20 seconds against 20 seconds. And once we get those last 5 seconds, it almost becomes a completely different game, because it's not only about the speed with which you make and execute the moves, but also the speed with which you recognize patterns, ever-evolving patterns, in a matter of 1 or 2 seconds max, which is extremely difficult, by the way.
Very tough. I mean, there's so many pieces still this position, so many pieces on the board. We are now down in Hans's case to the last 5 seconds. I feel like Hans is mostly just waiting, and it is not easy. I mean, we haven't identified a clear plan. But now is he making some way?
Yeah. This bishop on b4, huge piece right now. Yeah, allowing that bishop to b4 definitely plays in Hans's favor.
And now
but again,
they are... Oh.
What is that? I think that's just...
Is that a piece?
Yeah, that's a piece. He resigned. That's a piece.
And
great game! Great game by Hans. Great game by Hans. I mean...
And we see Magnus shake his head like, what the heck was that? It's the first moment, I think, in the game where we see a little frustration from Magnus. He still has a 4-point lead, but Hans so far is leading the 3+1 portion, which Magnus certainly isn't happy about.
Yeah, leading by 1. Obviously, Magnus wants to win all the sections, the match. If possible, he wouldn't like Hans to score any points. Obviously, that's out the window right now. But these are the type of motivations that keep Magnus going. And right now, Hans scored a huge victory. And not only for the simple fact that, you know, he outplayed his opponent, he outplayed Magnus in the last few seconds, but also he was the one to break every single time they were getting close to repetition. He was the one that was finding a way to keep the game going. That's usually Magnus. Magnus usually keeps the game going. It was Hans this time, and we're finally seeing some frustration from Magnus, as you just pointed out.
Yeah, and what do you make? I completely missed, actually, the opening. Okay, they repeated what we saw in the
same e4
game, kind
yes,
of. Yeah.
The same e4, but now Magnus is choosing a different plan, a very aggressive plan with a4, a5, a6, disrupting the pawn structure ASAP.
And okay, things have changed a lot here.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
I have to say, I kind of like black. I feel like that bishop on g7 along the long diagonal is kind of a beast. Yeah, if I had to pick a side, I would pick black here.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think we're still very close to equality. Nevertheless, it feels like the position is easier to play for black. As you just mentioned, the pressure is already set up against the b-pawn. The pressure is already set up against the b-pawn by the bishop as well. You cannot move the knight very easily. Everything you move, you're leaving something behind as white. That's why he played queen e2, defending the pawn on b2, trying to release this bishop and go bishop to e3. What is this? Oh, Hans just picked up a pawn. Magnus missed. Oh my goodness.
And this is very, I mean...
Magnus is not happy right now.
A turn of the tide here.
We are, right? There's something in the air, right? It feels like finally Hans is starting to get his groove back.
And Hans is looking, he senses the moment, I feel, you know, he is taking the upper hand in this portion, and it's still a long way to fight back. But one thing that Hans certainly does not like is confidence. And, you know, if it was, you know, Hikaru playing Riley Reza here, we would be talking about a possible comeback. I think it's going to be very hard to do it, but it's not impossible.
Not impossible. Not impossible. No, not impossible. And again, it's all about being able to sense when that frustration piles up, and when that frustration starts taking its toll. And that's the case right now.
And there goes the exchange. I'm shocked that Hans hasn't taken yet on e7. What is he waiting for?
Perhaps thinking about throwing in a check, but that's not going to. Yeah, that's not going to do it justice. So rook c1 maybe, and then are you exchanging this? Probably not. You're not going to give me the pawn on a7. No, this one is looking good. This one is Hans's to take.
Yeah.
Is Magnus slightly tilting right now?
I mean, he's down 2-1. In this portion, he is in serious danger of going down 3-1. He is down in exchange. I mean, maybe he can save this one. Oh,
yeah, I'm not
struggle
sure.
Ahead.
I'm not sure about this one. I think he's gonna save it. I actually think he's just simply going to save it. By the way, I think he missed 95.
But 95, what happens if I take on f2?
93.
Those forks again.
Yes.
Sneaky.
He missed this. Hans missed this because if you don't have 95, then you're just simply losing. But with 95 available now, and in fact, not only that you're threatening f7, right now I'm also threatening to go 93. So with a rook on b2 or not, or on f2, it doesn't matter. 93 is still coming.
And Hans is shaking his head. It's dawning on him now that he did miss a big chance here. It's not over yet, but I mean, I think we're almost entering territory where I would prefer to play white here.
Exactly. If anybody, I would say it's probably Magnus that has some chances. But
if
now
Hans can pick up the d pawn, then he should be at least safe.
He is picking up the d pawn. Wait, what's happening right now? Are we getting the moves? It's one. Whoa! Wait a minute.
By the way.
Okay, wait a minute.
I think Magnus is just gonna win this one somehow.
Oh yeah, no. Now it's definitely looking like Magnus has very decent chances to win this one. I think something went terribly wrong for Hans. Knight f6 and 94.
Oh.
94. That's it. Game over.
And this one is gonna be
Hans crumbles.
Plus. I mean, Hans played this game so well.
He did.
Until he got a winning position, and this one hurts. I mean, now we're back to a tight score in this 3+1 portion, and Magnus takes a 5-point lead. So rather than, being within 3, he's down 5, and that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. And look, that was one of those moments where Hans, it wasn't for the lack of skill. I think it was just simply for lack of experience. Because he kind of relaxed. He kind of was like, okay, I missed this. Now I'm going to have to make a draw. And then you didn't make the draw. And then you realize you have 2 seconds on the clock. You panic. And instead of taking a draw, take the repetition, whatever it was on the table, because there were moments on the table where he could have returned that exchange and make a draw. He should have taken that. For a lack of experience, he tried for more, and it backfired.
And this game, by the way, is the last one before a short break in the 3+1. We came very close, actually, to the half-hour mark. So after this game, after the break, there won't be too much time left on the clock. But let's see, we have, surprise, another Italian.
Now at least we're seeing a different approach, right? And I'm not even sure exactly who decided to deviate, but I think it was Hans decided with this d4, bishop to d3, no exchange of the light square bishops. And in exchange, you have to deal with this expansion, early expansion by black on the queen side.
Okay, so queen d2. Is white ever threatening to sacrifice on h6? Probably. Well, now not, because the queen can always slot back to f8. I'm always scared when I'm black and, the bishop and the queen are pointing down. But here, I guess we're safe. Also, the bishop on d3 is probably not enough attacking power. So giving up on my delusional attacking plans, what do we do instead? Something more positional, maybe?
That's a good question. Yeah, maybe b3 or b4 are interesting ideas. Try to First of all, get rid of this annoying pressure against the pawn on a2. For example, right now, if you take, I take back, and I don't think you can continue taking because you're going to have some difficulties after rook takes a7, and just a simple d takes e5, hitting both the rook and the knight on f6. So that pawn is poisoned. Don't take it. And if you don't take it, then at least this pawn, after the move c4, is no longer going to be under attack by the bishop. So you're relieving some pressure in the position.
Yeah, this is looking like a fine position for Hans. Let's see. What do you do on the a file? Okay, he takes. I didn't expect that he was gonna give up the a file.
Knight to f5. Okay. Queen. And by the way, right now I think we're back to a 5-point deficit. Am I correct?
We are at a 5-point deficit, yeah.
5-point deficit right now. Okay. Queen to f8, and this is starting to become difficult to bounce back from, with not a lot of time left on the clock. That's what I think, and that's why we see Hans being a bit frustrated with that final game, because he had it in the bag. But not only that, right now he's also starting to feel the pressure of the score. The score is piling up, and the time is running out.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a, in that moment, you know, the difference between coming back to within 3 or going down 5, it's so huge with only an hour left, half an hour of 3+1, half an hour of bullet. So we'll see. Can Hans get a win here before the break?
Bishop to b1,
Wow.
bishop to a5, I think it's game over.
Magnus misses it.
Misses it. Rook to e8. Bishop to a5, obviously just hitting the queen and the rook. If you play b4, I just simply pick up the pawn on c4. That's a huge pawn. But, again, in Blitz, a lot of things can be missed.
Queen d1. What's queen d1 about?
Well, the thing is, I don't think it's much about anything. It's just he's trying to find moves right now and he doesn't find it. The bishop on b1, not a tremendous piece right now. I think Magnus timed that exchange on f5 perfectly. Because right now, it is Magnus who has the advantage, strategical advantage. You have the majority on the queen side, and to be honest, there's no dynamic play in the position that could give white any compensation for that majority.
d5, Magnus strikes in the center. Yeah, and he's, once again, he is taking over here. Wow,
Whoa.
96.
Whoa, 96, okay. Okay, let him cook, as the young people say. You know that one? Did you know that one?
I've heard it.
You've heard it before? Yeah,
I've heard it.
That's how the youngsters say nowadays. Let him cook. Knight takes c4, bishop takes c4, take on c4. But I think if anybody's cooking right now, it's Magnus, once again. Because you're taking on c4, you cannot really take with the pawn on e6 because of queen takes b4. That's going to be very problematic. I have a feeling you have to take with the rook. Yes. Take on b4 and something along the lines of queen to d8 and follow that up with e7. I think that's the way to go. By the way, 18 seconds for
Both
Magnus.
players
14
under 20 seconds. We're gonna get another scramble here.
Queen e1 first, queen e5, g3, and now king to f7. Obviously trying to cover up with queen e7. No. Yes. And now maybe knight d6. But how are you going to answer knight d6? Knight d6, bishop c5, knight takes f5 is the idea. Queen c4, queen e6, and that's that was a very nice find by Magnus.
But Magnus is now the one down 2 seconds here.
Yeah, I think this one is probably just going to end in a draw.
It should end in a draw, but do you think with the time being so low? No.
The material is too limited.
Now without the queens, yeah.
Yeah, the material is
It's
still
gonna be
good.
the first, if it ends in a draw, it's gonna be the first draw of this 3+1 portion. Remember, the players will go on a short break after this, and there will be 24 minutes remaining on the match clock.
Is Hans actually putting some pressure? Maybe
Shouldn't
not.
be enough,
Maybe not.
right? Okay, and there they go. The last pawn is captured. The game is a draw.
Yes.
And so far, Magnus, well, he maintains his match lead, but the 3+1 portion is still tied. And I've been overall, yeah, once again, positively surprised. I think Hans has played quite well, and Magnus has continued playing well. But
He's hanging out. He's hanging out, and I don't think Magnus is very happy with it.
Yeah.
I think Magnus wanted more from this 3+1.
Absolutely, he still has 24 minutes to, to win this one. So we'll come back, guys, in just 5 minutes for the continuation and the final leg of this 3+1.
See you guys soon.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the second semi-final of the SCC. Magnus Carlsen against Hans Niemann. We're about to see the final moments of the 3+1 portion. Christian, how would you sum up how the match has gone so far?
Definitely a positive experience for Hans right now, the 3+1 section, not the 5+1, of course, that was all Magnus, but right now in the 3+1, Hans is showing that he can hang. Not only that, but I feel he was the one putting pressure in most of the games. He was the one getting out of the repetitions for the most time. And to be honest, maybe he was the one robbed, in quotation marks, of course, of more points, because he had the better position couple of times, which ended in a Magnus victory or a draw. So I think if he can maintain the level that he's been showing in the first part of the 3+1 portion, I think he can score some important victories.
Let's see, there are 24, just under 24 minutes remaining here. The players are at their computers. They are ready to start. And I'm curious, I think if Hans can decide one of the legs, if he just wins one of the portions, of course he wanted and he still wants to win the match. It's not mathematically impossible yet, but it's tough with a 5-point deficit. But winning one of the portions will still send out, a little signal of, well, I am a force to be reckoned with. Huge.
No, not a little one. I think that would be a huge signal that, he's been improving. He's here to stay. He's been improving and he can hang. Again, he's playing the world's best and most prolific speed chess player in the world. Not only speed chess player in the world right now, in the name of Magnus Carlsen for the last couple of decades. So, definitely this is a big statement if he manages to continue playing the way he has done so far.
Absolutely. And well, what do we get? We get a classical Alapin here, with Magnus not interested in any, sharp Sicilian debates. Hans got a nice position from the last Sicilian they had played.
And Hans, perhaps he's taking some time to try to realize how he wants to play this, because again, this is a new approach by Magnus. He is spending a lot of time, by the way, for such an early phase in the opening, only move 9, and this is a very well-known theoretical line. He's spending a lot.
He is spending a lot of... I guess Hans must not have expected.
He did not.
Of course, I mean, it's tough, right? Magnus can play absolutely every opening under the sun, but I think they are still following mainline theory, right?
Yes, this is still within very much mainline theoretical knowledge, should be for both of the players. I'm sure Magnus still knows what he's doing, and to be honest, this is a bit reminiscent of that game that Magnus completely dominated. You remember that attack with g3, h4, knight to g5, the exchange that came, and then the queen came swinging on the third of the rank, followed by the knight jumping to h5 and delivering some sort of a deadly sacrifice on g7 or f6. So the same structure, the same exact structure, Magnus already has one game in. So from a psychological perspective, this is not good news for Hans.
This is not good news, and I mean Magnus will be very happy with what he has gotten here. He is first of all taking away, you know, taking some ground on the queen side. I don't know. I don't think these pawns are gonna push any further. He is now controlling both c4 and b5, and Hans looking for a queen trade.
Yeah, and Magnus should definitely avoid that, which he does. Masterfully so, with queen e3, probably the best square for the queen. You also have to keep contact with the knight on e2. Now, what Hans really needs to do, and he needs to do it fast, is to exchange the queens. Queen to g6, I don't think that's a step in the right direction. Because right now I can just simply squeeze you. I'm going to go rook to c1. We're going to exchange perhaps the rooks on the c file. You're not exchanging the queens any longer. And it's going to be a long game in which I have the space advantage. I'm dictating the pace of the game.
The question is it just a fine position, or can Magnus squeeze something again? h4 is a clear indication.
Oh, certainly he can. Yes, certainly he can.
It's a silly question, right? Can Magnus squeeze something out of this? No.
This is the type of position which he will try to squeeze for a very long time. Because he has a very slight advantage. He's not risking much. It would be a miracle if black can get a better position in this structure. The A and B pawns are controlling black's pieces very well. The A pawn controls the bishop, the B pawn controls the knight coming to c4. So it's not as easy to create anything. In the meantime, I will do something. Knight f4, knight d3, knight f4, maybe knight h2, knight g4. I have these knights which are definitely going to create havoc in your position. You're going to slowly pick at your weak spots.
The problem for Hans is that he is just very passive here. He's trying to reroute the knight, but that bishop on c6 right now, it is a big pawn. It's not really doing anything. What future do you envision for the bishop? Just stay there and wait?
That's the big problem. That's the big problem. Maybe something, but again, you cannot really relieve the pressure. If you move the bishop, maybe I can invade. If you go b6, obviously you're going to lose the bishop. But perhaps right now with the queen already established on e1, connected with the knight, maybe I can try to go b6, bishop b7, bishop a6. That was my plan. He goes for bishop d7, but now I can kick the queen away with knight d3.
Yeah, and the knight will probably go to c5 afterwards.
And
Where does
again,
the queen go?
look at the time. We kind of forgot about the time.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it.
8 seconds against a minute. That's usually has not ended in a positive result for Hans. Whenever is this situation on the clock, it usually ends in a blunder.
So far he's holding on. Magnus also, I mean, it's not like white has a clear-cut plan, right? Black is passive, but black is solid.
Maybe even h5, even though I actually don't like h5. Queen to d2. Excuse me.
Bless you. I guess
Thank you.
Hans will be happy to see the queens come off. I think it should make the defensive task at least a little bit easier.
Life a bit easier, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, I certainly agree with that statement. f4, he goes for g4, okay. But now the knight will come to d4, right? Perhaps this is something that b6, knight d3, we need to
but
defend.
Finally the bishop finds something to do.
Yes. Yes. King to h4 or knight to f4? Ooh, knight to f4, okay. Now knight takes e6, knight takes e5.
But Hans be taking over here. I mean, if Hans wins this game, that would be hugely impressive.
I would be shocked.
The position where he was under pressure the whole game, he was down on time, but Magnus's time is ticking now as well.
I would honestly be shocked if Hans wins this one. Because it's still not a very clean-cut position. It's still a very double-edged, even though the material is very limited.
And just like that, white is back in the driver's seat.
He's completely winning. Yeah. He vacuumed a couple of pawns for absolutely nothing. In fact, he vacuumed all of the pawns. But perhaps he's not going to take over.
And now the pawns are running. I don't think there will be any stopping the A and B pawns.
The knight tries to go to d7. Again, it's still 5 seconds for Magnus, 2 seconds for Magnus. King to h4. You cannot move the king because of knight e5. This is the problem. So you're basically stuck. Knight e5 is coming nonetheless, which is going to force resignation.
And Magnus takes a 6-point lead in the match. And yeah, Hans now on the huge. I mean, if he still had any dreams of making a match comeback, that comeback will have to start right now. And wow, Christian, 1c4. Magnus is in shock. Has he actually not made a move? Oh no, Magnus is talking to someone.
Okay.
Now it is Magnus.
He's a bit confused about something. I'm not sure about what. Game aborted. I'm not 100% sure why this is transpiring right now. I think they're going to probably get back into action in no time. Let's,
are they actually? Magnus is like, no, come on.
They haven't started the
Hans didn't play
maybe...
e4, this can't be right. Abort the game.
Let me know if you see the game on any other screen, so perhaps I can... No, something has happened. Something has definitely bothered Magnus.
Maybe he wasn't seeing a move. I don't know.
Sorry?
Okay, the arbiter is intervening once again. And we are just guessing once again what is going on.
Not sure, but the game hasn't started yet.
Could it be the same issue as with Hans? I think the Hans issue was a clock issue.
Maybe. Yeah, Hans was not happy. Hans is still not happy right now, but the games are underway. Finally, we have moves. C4, E5. This must definitely be coming as somewhat of a surprise for Magnus. But the thing about Magnus, again, and you pointed it out earlier, he kind of knows everything, right? He can play everything, as in the opening phase. You're not going to be able to surprise him. He's had so much preparation, so much residual preparation from all the World Championship matches that he has played throughout the years. So clearly still within his grasp of understanding.
And what do we make out of the position that I like, you know, I was gonna say if f4 appears on the board, f4 my favorite move in the world, I'm gonna have to pick white here.
You love this type of moves, yeah? This
yes.
type of look, I think he actually got somewhat of an edge out of the opening. Bishop d7, bishop d2. Are we going to see a knight finally arrive in the center? I mean, you've spent so many moves. Knight h7, knight f8, knight d6. Finally, it's time to get a knight to d4. Knight to b4.
Computer does not approve of what Magnus is doing. It's actually saying to play a3. And then I guess we can take on d3 because of what?
a3 taking on d3, my guess is that you can just simply go queen b3.
Gets trapped, yeah?
The knight gets trapped, yeah. You cannot bring it back. You cannot pick up the pawn on b2. He misses it, but it's not really a miss, right? Because a3 was not... Sure, maybe it was giving a larger advantage, but it was still a game to be played. You weren't winning any material with that move. I could just simply take on d5 in that instance. It's still going to be a maneuvering game, but it's looking good for Hans right now. And by the way, I think this is the first time Magnus is taking the lead in the 3+1 section.
Oh yeah, you're right. I didn't even I didn't even realize. Yeah, Magnus now with a 3.5, 2.5 lead in that in this segment. But Hans looking to equalize here. He has a fine position. He is a bit up on the clock. But once again, the age-old question: how do we continue? Okay, now A3. He's playing this much slower than I thought he would.
Yes, he is, and that's probably costing him right now. Because look, in the last few moves, Black has done a lot for his position. Started on offense on the king side, also blocked everything happening on the queen side. And what did White do?
I was just gonna say, we're joined by Hikaru in the chat, who's saying this has some old shades of a Kramnik Magnus game from the Tal Memorial in 2009. That's funny. I mean, I wonder, did Hans actually prepare with Kramnik possibly for this match?
I think, look, it's his life coach. Whether he prepared specific openings, I kind of doubt it, but I'm sure he got some hints from Kramnik. And this is something that he's been drilling on. In his interview, he talked with Levy yesterday as well, in a very famous already interview. And he did say that he got some very important hints from Kramnik. He was pretty vague. Nobody really knows what that means. But
well, I mean,
that's what he said.
No doubt, no matter what you think of Kramnik and which hill he has now decided to die on, I mean, there is no doubt that he's one of the history's one of history's greats when it comes to chess.
Oh, of course, it is such a legend.
I mean, I think there is no world in which working with Kramnik is ever gonna be bad for your chess. Now, as for other developments that can be discussed, but let's see. The game is developing knight e4.
Hikaru being very philosophical in the chat. Times pass, years blend together. That's a very good point. As you grow older and as you kind of get into this routine of playing top tournaments one after the other, they kind of blend together. Hey, which one? Linares 98, Linares 99. Which one was it? You don't actually remember.
And I looked away for 1 second and suddenly there is a white knight on e7. That's very unusual.
How did this knight land on e7, Fiona? Because I wasn't paying attention.
No, me neither.
I was trying to understand.
Seen a knight like that on e7, actually.
Okay, wait. Do you take?
If I'm a computer, yes.
You kind of have to, right? So take, and then just drop to c8. Defend this, and the question is, where is the compensation? You get a queen to g7, but that's about it. I get my rook to f8.
I don't know. Yeah, and Magnus does take.
Magnus is pretty good. Magnus is pretty good. Yeah, rook to e4, maybe king to d7, followed by queen to f8.
It seems like White just doesn't have enough attacking power. I mean, the bishop on g2 doesn't really do anything. The queen is now far away from the black king. And
now you're starting.
It's a problem.
Now I think everybody's starting to understand. Magnus doesn't stop. He starts winning. He wants more. That's what we're seeing from him right now. He doesn't stop. He's not going to stop whether he has a 6, 7, 8 point lead in the match. He's going to try to squeeze every single point available.
Yeah, and maybe even more so after Hans won a couple of games in this portion. So he has awoken the beast in case he ever, had a little slump in concentration. He is back here, and Magnus is very close to wrapping this one up and taking a 7-point lead, but still he has to be a little bit careful. Hans is fighting.
He needs a few more moves, yes. Yeah. He certainly needs a few more moves to try to stabilize the position. f6, rook to f8. It does seem like queen f7 should be easy enough. king to c8, perhaps rook to f7. Wait a minute. No, this is not that
so
easy,
clear.
right?
Oh my goodness. What is going on?
Is Magnus just losing this now? Oh, this is a huge development. Huge development. Magnus is losing this.
What a turnaround. The king is running. I don't think Hans has any interest in a repetition here.
How did that happen?
I have
absolutely no
idea.
Out of absolutely.
But what now?
Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Oh my goodness.
But now it's a draw, yeah? Or is it
a draw? I think you can take queen f4 and take on c6. That's a pawn. That's a pawn. Now Magnus is going to try to squeeze. Squeeze. What an absolute madness of a game. Can you go to d4? At some point you have to go to d4, right?
I think he will now, surely.
I have to go to d4.
Oh, no, he allows the repetition.
That's he probably thought that he has one more go at it with queen b2.
I mean, this was the craziest. We've seen a lot of crazy games in this match, but I think this one takes the cake so far.
Oh my goodness. What was that? What was that?
I have no idea what just happened there.
Yeah. And now we're still continuing with a 6-point lead for Magnus as we are entering.
It shaved a lot of time off the clock. This was possibly the longest game of the match.
And this might be the last game.
This could be the last game,
yeah. This might actually be the last game. We're going to have to wait and see whether the players are going to milk the clock. But right now they're within range of maybe finishing up the 3+1 portion. It's gonna be
close. It's gonna be very close. But Magnus, this time he's gotten, again, I think, a position he'll be very happy with. White just has, more space, easier play. After the madness of the last game, I think he'll be happy to have this.
Is Magnus having a fan? Maybe this is what he was... so okay, now we kind of understand what he was complaining about. I think he was just simply too hot. He has a fan right now blowing his hair. Because somebody in the chat was saying that the players on the official broadcasts look very sweaty.
Yeah.
It might actually just be extremely warm in the playing hall, and Magnus...
It's also incredibly late to be playing such an important match. If it had come down to the bullet portion, here I think it's irrelevant. Magnus has such a huge lead, but if it had come down to the bullet portion, they will be playing that. They have 5 more minutes left. Maybe we'll get another game after this. Then suddenly that tacks on another 5 minutes, then a 10-minute break. So, they could be starting the bullet portion at midnight local time in Paris, which, in my opinion, is just too late for such an important match.
Absolutely. And I have to echo your sentiment. I did think that by this time in the day we would probably be done.
Yeah, I think the match was scheduled to end right now.
To finish right now, yes, but it doesn't seem to be the case. Because we have the breaks, because, the games are obviously lasting a bit longer perhaps than expected, some of them at least.
I think the match also started like 15 minutes late, then there was the extra interruption where Hans had the discussion with the arbiter, Magnus did as well. But yeah, I think even, starting at almost 9 o'clock at night, it's just, I think it's very, very late.
I think that's just prime TV time.
Yeah.
And look, and by their own admission, I do believe that this was one of those tournaments which the organizers are trying to kind of come up with something new, sell some ads, speak with broadcasts, official national broadcasts. I think Norway probably sent a team over. So I think this is what they were trying to achieve, which is big numbers. If you want to get big numbers, you have to do it at the right time. So probably in Europe, this is the best time to do so.
Yeah, that is true. I still think, yeah, that the match, if it had finished at midnight, might be okay. Now it's getting... I mean, also the Indian market is so huge. Like, there's no way these guys... I'm sure some of the Indians will still be watching, but yeah, maybe what you're saying. Sorry.
Well, also if you think about tennis, it's kind of like we often see this type of situation where matches go as long as like 1 a.m., 2 a.m., especially at the French Open. I remember even recently, I think there was a Djokovic match that went all the way to like 3 a.m. And then he had another match the next day or something along those lines. So
I don't think...
they go pretty late. They some of them do go pretty late.
Yeah, I didn't realize they go that late. I actually... Okay. I'm
very
not sure.
very few of them. It's not a normal thing to happen, but some of them definitely do go.
I mean, also, okay, the players knew in advance at what time they would be playing. They agreed to it, so I think it's all good. I think if it had come down to it, then the fact that they didn't stick to a schedule, you know, that the bullet would be starting an hour later than scheduled.
Yes.
But now
of course,
not such a big deal.
It's definitely going to be a problem on Sunday for me, Fiona, because I have to bounce at exactly 3 p.m. my time. But I think we're going to get the result.
3 p.m. What time is it for you now?
It's 5 p.m.
5 p.m. So what's that? 7 hours difference. So that will be 10. Yeah, that's going to be very tight, actually.
It is. Well, I'm just following the official schedule. So if we finish by the official schedule, then if not, you'll have to, because I have a flight to catch. Yes, but
meanwhile, we have completely ignored this game, but Hans is up in exchange.
He is up in exchange, but he is facing a couple of very dangerous pawns on this side. He has one of his own, so definitely right now is Hans with the advantage. I don't think you can take this.
It doesn't take.
Look, this knight on d3 is tremendous. This is the only thing that's keeping white alive right now. Rook a5, rook to e2. Trying to dislodge the knight on d3 with rook to d2. Very important.
But now we just take on a2, no?
You can just take, yes. You can just take. I think that's probably the best.
Isn't that game over? I mean, the rooks come off as well.
Let's say king to h7. That allows me to go a4.
Did he just... I'm sure at this point the players must be tired as well.
They're extremely tired. Yes. A rook d5.
Rook g5.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. That finishes the job. Oh, wait. He didn't see it.
It's still a winning position, but yeah, I think at this point the mistakes are clearly creeping in here.
Bishop e3. Oh, bishop to b4. Okay. 12 seconds against 14. This is not over. This is not over yet. Bishop to e1. How do you continue? How do you make progress? Knight to b2 is a very good move by Hans. Well spotted. Perhaps the winner.
I don't see. I mean, what rook a?
Look,
it's so frustrating. So these games are so frustrating, right? Where you think, okay, I'm winning, but suddenly it's just taking longer than expected. Now it's suddenly not as easy as expected, and white is winning. What the heck?
No, it's not that easy. It's actually just winning. Never mind. Never mind. Now it's no longer winning. Now it's back to being better for black. Okay, get the bishop on e3 and make a draw.
I have good news. At least the timer is out, so we're not gonna see one more game of 3+1.
Oh my goodness. What a game this was. I think Hans is gonna take it.
Now it's winning.
I think Hans took it.
Wow, what a game we just saw. What a game.
Hans made it to the 1+1 portion with a deficit of what? 6 or 5 points? 5 or 6 points. Where are we right now? I do believe we're on 5 points entering the blitz portion. The bullet portion, excuse me.
You know what? I'm gonna say that I think Hans will still have a tiny hope.
Oh yeah, no, he's still hoping. He's still hoping. Obviously, it's it's a very difficult task. If Hikaru's was difficult, this is probably more difficult. But look, you have to at this level, you need to harbor hope until the end.
Absolutely.
That's how they do it. That's how they play good chess.
And guys, it is time now for our final break of the day. The bullet action will resume in just under 10 minutes. Half an hour of 1+1 to conclude what has been a tremendously action-packed day. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon for the bullet.
See you guys soon.
And for the final time today, welcome back everyone to the second SCC semifinal between Magnus Carlsen and Hans Niemann. We're about to begin with the bullet portion. Christian, Hans has kind of held his own in the 3+1. What do you expect from the bullet?
Well, I think he actually just held his own. In fact, I think it was equal, if I'm not mistaken. In the 3+1 section, Magnus went with a 5-point lead, and right now he has a 5-point lead still. So definitely Hans, once again, showing that he can hang. And again, I think he, perhaps the second part of the 3+1 was more shifting towards Magnus's favor. I felt like he was getting the better positions and he was putting the pressure. But Hans obviously still shows that he has it. He's not going anywhere. And right now, he still harbors some hopes, not high hopes that he's going to be able to come back, but some hopes of a comeback.
And those hopes of a comeback, they start here with the white pieces. Hans looking to get off to a good start. Interesting setup by Magnus, who plays the pit, so he is mixing it up for the bullet. I always, white looks so great, but whenever I face the pits in my own games, I feel like it's good. I've got all that space, my pieces are beautifully placed, and suddenly black pushes those pawns on the king side, and
something feels uncomfortable, right? That's
exactly.
Maybe try to continue pushing with b4, try to kick the knight away, and maybe follow that up, not with knight takes c4. You cannot touch that pawn yet because of queen takes d7, but perhaps a preparatory move with a rook to d8. That's my guess. That's what I think Magnus is going to do. But Magnus is down on time right now, and perhaps with a slightly worse position. I'm very curious to see how these players are going to handle the 1+1 portion.
Hans is also spending a lot of time here. I was going to say to decide where the knight goes. He gives up a piece for the attack.
Big decision.
Looks
big decision.
Sound.
Yes, a piece down. But right now, where's the compensation? Where is the compensation? You have some sort of a lingering type of compensation, right? This knight coming to e6. I maybe take your bishop on g7 and then your king becomes weak. It's a very annoying type of compensation, and right now he established material balance, and things are looking good for Hans. If he starts with a win, I mean, that would be huge.
But Magnus, in the process of stabilizing things, that is a big knight on d5, and suddenly Hans in a tricky position on the board, on the clock as well.
c5, a very important move. If he makes it, he has great chances to... Yeah, he spots it.
He does.
Of course. If
And
there was
bishops,
any doubt.
The bishop on g7 now, an absolute beast.
Pick up the pawns, start picking up some pawns. Queen to c7, bishop to d4. That's going to force the allowance of an exchange, an extra exchange. Knight to e6, is that a move? This c-pawn, c-pawn is somehow annoying.
But anything can still, I mean, we've seen a few scrambles that were absolutely mad between these two players, so I'm not ruling out any result here. I think anything could still happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Knight to e6, c7, king to g7, right?
Yeah.
But now I can take, oh, rook takes e6. That's also possible.
It's gonna be game over.
And that's a winner for Magnus Carlsen, which takes the first game of the 1+1 portion.
An eventful game, and we go from an eventful game to a solid Alapin. Magnus repeating his choice from one of the final games of the 3+1. But we get a deviation from what we saw earlier. It feels like more life. I mean, a very open position here with some imbalances.
Yes, absolutely. Some imbalances. It does seem like Black Hans has solved his opening problems. Look, the way I'm seeing this portion play out right now is a battle. To be honest, after the first loss, I feel Hans is probably already starting to realize that this match is over. Now, what I think Magnus is going to try to achieve from the remainder of the games is pile up the points. Get as many on the scoreboard. Make it look like this was not a competitive match. Make it look by the end of the day for the players and people and reporters that are going to report on this match. Make it look by the look of the score that it was not a competitive match at all. That's his goal.
I'm sorry, I started laughing when you were talking because I was looking at the camera and this band that they have now provided for Magnus. I mean, he has this big mane of hair, right? And it was just like blowing in the wind like some Hollywood movie star.
Yeah.
In a perfume ad or something. Anyway, this position looks pretty even.
Absolutely no.
Will
It is even.
Still happen here? Surely not.
No. He's gonna take on b3. He's gonna take on a5.
Yeah.
Bishop d2. Bishop.
Come on, guys, make one. Just
Rook c5.
somebody. The thing is, nobody wants to be the one to offer a draw, right?
Yep.
So they'll just play.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. It's some sort of a psychological play. And to be honest, Magnus is starting to feel like he has the better chances.
He had an opportunity to repeat moves, avoid having to offer. He played on.
Yeah, right now I think Magnus is trying to play for a win. He's somewhat.
Both players have plenty of time on the clock.
He's and also, by the way, Magnus wants to milk the clock, right? Magnus is trying to milk the clock. I think we've seen. Yeah, it seems like Hans is a little bit frustrated right now.
Oh, but I thought he was gonna exchange rooks. He keeps them on.
Bishop to c3, trying to target the pawn on a5. Bishop d6. Rook e4. Maybe rook a4. Yeah. This is unfortunately.
Not so much is happening here.
Well, this is unfortunately just really a bad situation for Hans because Magnus can take as much time from the clock as possible.
Okay, they did repeat in the end. We get a draw and we get the next game on. What is Magnus gonna... Okay, back to the Italian we go.
Yes we are. Yes, we are. Maybe some bishop to g4, set up the
a-pawn is making a run for it.
Hans is trying to find something, trying to switch things up. The Italian, but completely different Italian than what we've seen before. At the same time, Magnus surely still knows what he's doing. Knight to b8 or rook to e8, okay.
Yeah, but Magnus once again not phased.
No.
Undaunted and unbothered.
Moisturized. Yes. Yes. The hair is flowing. Everything is good. Life is good. He's probably going to the finals. 99% chance right now that he's going to meet Ali Reza Firouzja in what will be definitely a very, very interesting final to follow, which leaves us, by the way, with a very cool match for third position tomorrow. we have Hikaru versus Hans. That's going to
Yeah.
be an
And
exciting
I
one.
wouldn't say it's quite as big a grudge match as Hans against Magnus, but certainly the two are not friends, and there will be, you know, there's been some bad blood there.
Always some history. Look, when lawsuits are involved, there's always some bad blood. Yeah. I don't think we're going to see any smiles coming from any direction.
What is happening on the board?
Hans is taking over. Hans is taking over right now. He has the more aggressive, the most dangerous pawn, the b pawn, and he can actually push it to b6. I don't think you can take. That's going to be a deadly pin on the b file. Knight f5, but that allows d4. Perhaps not something that Hans wanted to see. Queen to b3, for example, that's going to be met by rook to b4. Knight f4, and I'm starting to see some ghosts in the position.
And Magnus so rarely misses these opportunities when they are given to him.
He didn't find it, it seems like, and right now he's in trouble. Queen to d5, b6 is an opportunity. Knight to c6, yes, still winning. Still b6 is coming, and I don't think there's a clear way to. Rook to d8, followed by b8. That's going to be a winning endgame.
Does it require much technique, or is it fairly straightforward to win?
There's some technique involved, yes. There's actually some technique involved, but now generally it should be fairly easy. Fairly easy. You're just going to bring the king all the way towards f6, and at some point
careful not to fall for any more forks. We've already seen plenty of those today.
Like right now, you go knight e5, I just simply go rook takes e5.
Can I trap the knight somehow? Rook d2? I don't know.
That's probably what he's going to try to achieve. White won.
Magnus lost on time, actually.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we were completely. I was not paying attention to the time at all, but it did say timeout. It seemed like a weird spot to resign anyways. So Hans gets a win. We're back within 5 points. Mathematically, it is still possible.
Look, mathematically still possible. Get a few wins, get Magnus tilted if you can, and that's the path to victory. But it's not an easy path. No. It truly is not an easy path. We put Magnus at 99%.
Hans can win, you know, if he can win 1 or 2, that might be enough to unsettle Magnus a little bit. I also don't think it's gonna happen, but I've been, you know, I had missed somehow all of Hans's previous matches in the SCC leading up to the semi-final. I was always busy, so I've never really seen Hans play much bullet, but so far I'm quite impressed. I think he's doing well.
Yeah, I mean, look, we're back to the 5-point differential that was established in the 5+1. Yeah. That was a long time ago. After the 5+1, it was basically an equal match. Sure, that's not, you know, that's not how anybody's going to see it at the end of it, but this is, by the way, I do believe there was a queen takes d5 opportunity perhaps, but maybe I was wrong. Still good for Magnus. Pawn up. Not much to worry about after c4. A beautiful knight on d5. This is the type of position that Magnus doesn't miss. I don't think he's going to miss this one. Rook to e1, knight to e7 is an idea. Queen to b4, queen to g3 to try to go for knight takes f6 is an option. Knight e7 wins on the spot. Knight e7, yeah, he finds it.
And he sees it, and that's gonna be that.
Back to 6. Back to 6.
To 6.
Back to 6. Yes.
And Magnus plays the Sicilian himself now. We've seen this one before, but with colors reversed.
Yes. Yes. B3. So Magnus decided to switch things up in the bullet portion. He started with the modern. That didn't work out very well for him. And right now, starting to try to go for the Sicilian. he's prodding. He's trying to understand. Look, he probably also is thinking about tomorrow's match. Maybe in the back of his mind, not necessarily. Right now, he still wants to, he wants to finish this one off. But maybe testing some of his ideas in the opening phase.
I have to say, the final, I think, will be the closest match. Today, I was shocked. I really thought this one, I thought Magnus would win quite easily, which I think he will do. Magnus, Hikaru, Alireza, I expected to be much closer, but, as Hikaru said, today just wasn't his day. Alireza played well. These things happen. But at the end of the day, the two matches we saw, neither of them were, we saw some great games, but there wasn't that intrigue of like, oh my God, this is so tense. So I hope, as a chess fan, that Sunday, and I say Sunday because I think tomorrow Hikaru is a huge favorite. I really hope that Sunday we will get, this nail-biting action. And while I was rambling,
I just want
to...
Like you were giving us a beautiful story, but Magnus was putting an absolute clinic, and I was just admiring the clinic while I was listening.
I gave you time to admire.
It was very good, but I was also really admiring what was happening on the board.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I gave you the chance to admire in peace.
Really well played game by Magnus. Incredible accuracy in that one.
And what's going on here? Again, I looked away for the first 10 seconds, and some demolition has already happened on the king side.
Yep. On the queen side as well, by the way. This pawn on c6 is quite...
Well.
Yeah, on the queen side, I mean, the pawn on a6 is going to maybe be a liability, but most likely an asset right now. Queen to g5. Hans is trying to get something related to h3 perhaps. Rook a3, I like this move. g3.
Does black no, black is attacking with just a queen, which cannot be enough, I think, Magnus.
No, I think it's black who's getting attacked.
Yeah, this is all Magnus.
I think it's black who's getting attacked. Yeah, knight on h5, by the way. How do you defend this? I think this is just game. Game, set. And almost match.
It's actually match. It's 8 points, an 8-point lead with 13, just under 14 minutes to go. Mathematically, I think we can.
Yes. I think we're just about to be entering the mathematical portion where if the games go down to their last few seconds, which pretty much every single game does, then we're going. Yeah, it's over. It's always,
when I watch the commentary of these SCCs, and when people say something like I just did, what mathematically, now it's like, okay, anyway, what were the chances, that Hans was gonna win 5 games in a row? Suddenly they were very low.
But Fiona, I mean, look at the body posture. Magnus is not ready to call it a night. Magnus wants to keep playing, wants to keep smashing. Yeah. He's just getting in the groove right now. I mean, he looks absolutely focused. He's piling up the wins.
How the heck did that happened so fast?
He wants to make it look like it wasn't a fight. Yeah. At the end of the day, nobody in fact will be able to say that this was a fight. When
Hans looks a little bit demoralized.
He wants to be out of there. He right now wants to be out of there.
And Magnus, I mean, he's really, no man is as ruthless as Magnus in these spots. He's now won 3 in a row.
We've talked about it at the beginning of the broadcast, throughout the broadcast, in fact. He never lets go. 9
hours ago, we were saying, remember. I'm curious, actually. Let me know in the chat. Has anyone watched since the beginning? Has anyone? I'm sure some of the mods probably, and some people surely But it's been a long day of chess. I look at the board, Magnus is dominating once again. The wheels are coming off in these final moments of the match.
Yeah. No, he wants more blood right now.
Yeah.
He certainly wants more blood. Queen to b7. Okay. So knight f3 perhaps, because you truly have to get out of this knight takes e5. How will Magnus get out of that? By the way, do you think Hans is going to call it a match when they enter the last 10 minutes?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No. I don't. Has anyone ever resigned a match in the SCC?
I want to say it probably happened.
Haven't.
I want to say it happened.
It happened.
I think it happened. I want to say it happened. I might be very much wrong. But
with the delay, by the way, I see a few people now in the chat saying they have watched the whole thing. So big shout out. A lot of them actually. A lot of the chat have been here since the beginning. We went live almost 9 hours ago. What
another
happened?
one. As
I'm
you were
sorry,
just
I'm gonna shut up.
as you were just praising the chat for good reason, especially the people that have been here since the beginning. Magnus piled up another win. Now it's up to 10.
Up to 10 and
Up to
down
10.
to 10 minutes on the match clock.
Yes, 10 minutes. The last 10 minutes that
Magnus
Hans
has
really-
won 5 in a row, yeah? I think.
Yeah. It was the 5-point deficit that was established in 5+1, and now we're up to 10.
Unbelievable. And he's not done yet. I mean, at the speed at which he's been winning, I mean, he's won those games so quickly. I always feel, I can ramble a little bit and the game will still be going. But no, I start a little story and suddenly the game is over. This one looks like it's gonna last a little bit longer. Hans is doing okay so far, but I don't know, with the bishop coming to d5, I think Magnus will also be quite happy.
Yeah, no, definitely some chances for both sides. Again, look, right now, the chess kind of ended a little while ago, right? The chess part of it.
Now the suffering.
Now is the suffering. Now it truly is the suffering part. Maybe you'll get a win, maybe you would not if you are Hans, but you know that it doesn't really matter anymore. At the same time, you are fighting for survival. You are fighting for survival because you're facing a guy that just doesn't want to stop yet. He's not ready to stop yet. And that's a kind of a problem.
But can Hans stop the bleeding here?
Oh, he's definitely stopping the bleeding. The question is he
He's
winning?
not gonna lose, but can he win? Yeah.
Can he win this one? Can he win this one? C4, he's trying to exchange everything and then get to that. Yeah, I think this is winning. Bishop c7 to cover this entry, and now you can enter the other way. A5.
Yeah, I think this was good technique, no?
Oh yes, absolutely. But it's not over yet because bishop
Not
c7
over.
always
It's
bishop
never
e1.
freaking over against Magnus.
Exactly.
Never over.
I think just the pawn is running down the board right now. Maybe now it's over. Maybe now it's over, right? I think this is over finally.
And he resigns.
Finally, it's over. Yes.
Hans gets it down to single digits lead, 9 points now. Magnus, I think he's gonna be eager, make it 10 again.
I think he wants 10. Yes, he wants 10. He wants that for sure.
7.5 minutes left on the match clock.
Oh, by the way,
Yeah.
now I just realized because I read it in the chat. The prize fund is actually based on how well you scored. So this last few games and wins dictate how much money you're making. So not only that,
I'm gonna
obviously
go
he
out
wants-
on a limb and say this isn't about the money for Magnus.
probably it's not his top priority. But it is something to take into consideration, right?
It is.
Knight to a3, take on e6, followed by knight to c4. Still, it feels better for Hans right now. Perhaps c4, bishop to e3. The famous adoption. Do you know the famous? You know what adoption means, right?
I'm
Okay,
an auntie. Auntie has been around a while.
That's true. That's true. My goodness.
Funnily enough, we were talking about one of the last tournaments we were covering. I was here with Jose, and we talked about, you know, all of Hikaru's adopted children, and there was a list in the command. There is a command. Maybe someone can type it, exclam adoption. And Jose was not on that list, so he's like, "Oh, I think Hikaru never adopted me." But of course, someone was immediately on the case and found the adoption.
He was adopted.
He was adopted. He was added to the... I mean, it's quite an illustrious list of players that have been adopted by Hikaru.
No, I bet. I bet. I have no doubt about that. 2 pawns stood good. This could be a second in a row for Hans. Magnus doesn't look happy right now.
No. Yeah,
Magnus
you know,
does not
Hans,
look happy right
the
now.
match is over, but you have to command his fighting spirit. I think he was never... I think resigning the match would just be such an admission of, you broke me. I think that was never going to happen.
Yeah.
But to be able to fight back and get some wins after you lost 5 in a row, you know, you have to respect it, that he doesn't, you know, just roll over and die.
Absolutely. That's always something to be respected, and it's easy to do. It's easy to fall into that trap whenever you're down so much. Rook takes f6.
By the way, there is the list on the chat if you've never seen it.
2 in a row.
2 in a row.
I'm not on the list, probably because I've never played that many games against him. But that's a pretty decent list.
And I like how there's a link to the full list. You know, these are just the most famous.
I don't think I'm on the list.
Do you still play online at all sometimes?
Very rarely. Not that much time and not that much energy to do those. I was playing a lot when I was streaming. What
just happened?
3 in a row?
3 in a row.
Wow.
That is
3
incredible.
in a row. 3 in a row. The comeback kid. Look,
It is too late, but you know,
it's
he
too
is
late.
not going down without a fight, and not
I think
many
that was
players
a
can
mouse lead,
claim
right?
to have won even 3 in a row against Magnus, I'm sure.
That was a mouse lead. That was definitely a mouse lead.
I completely missed what even happened. But yeah, this one, probably the second last game of the match, I would say.
Absolutely. A couple more games. Obviously, nothing will change the outcome of this match. But certainly, you know, the 2 players are starting to think about the next day's match as well.
Tomorrow,
Bishop
let's
takes it.
remind everyone, tomorrow is the consolation match. Hikaru against Hans. That will happen at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time, noon Eastern, I guess, and 9 a.m. Pacific, if my math is correct. And the final happens at the same time on Sunday.
Correct. Yes, and I get to sleep a little bit longer tomorrow. It's going to be a good test.
You had an early start. I have a late finish. I think tomorrow is a better schedule for both of us.
Absolutely. No, I started. We started at I believe 9 a.m. on my time.
Yeah, and my time is almost 1 a.m. now.
Yeah.
I think both of us will get a good sleep tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with full energy for a big one. Aborted! What happened there? Oh, the arbiter is back. We missed it. Something happened again, just when we thought we were close. When I thought I was close to going to bed.
A final drama.
Final claim.
A final
Clash.
That's a good one. That's a good one. A final claim. Yes. Yes.
And by the way, good night to Zelot Charge, who I think is one of the people who's been around pretty much all day. Have a good night. See you tomorrow, hopefully. What is happening again?
That's a word.
Come on, the match is over. Just enough is enough. We were 3 minutes away. Have some freaking mercy.
No, another clash. Another big clash is coming.
I like how the fan is just violently blowing in Magnus's face.
I'm sure he enjoys that. I'm sure he enjoys that. There's something with the mouse. There's something that's not working. There's something to talk about. There's one more thing to talk about in this match. If you've paid for tickets today, the 1500,
you got value for your money. Jesus.
You got your money's worth. You definitely got your money's worth. I mean, so many things have happened in Paris. In this 9 hours of chess on day one of the Speed Chess Championship. I mean, I cannot even wrap my head around it. But yeah, the players are still not playing. It's time to finish the match, guys. It's over. It's over. It's over. But as you can see, none of them are ready to blink. None of them are ready to say, come on, let's just finish this off. Everybody
is losing her mind. Auntie is tired, guys.
Everybody is trying to squeeze the most out
maximum content, maximum drama.
Yes. Yes. And the thing
what do you
is,
think? This game, I mean, this game, the position is completely winning. Hans is down to 4 seconds against 45. What
no, of
happened?
course, this is over. I think he just.
I like a baby girl's comment. Hopefully Fiona and Christian can do a recap of every game when this ends. Sure, stick around, guys.
Oh my goodness.
Still.
But the thing is, bishop to a6, I think was played. Let me just check, see if I can check that. When Hans had 55 seconds, and they aborted when he had 4. So 50 seconds were spent. Yeah, at this point. I mean, maybe the mouse were unplugged. Maybe look, it didn't happen, which is very good. It didn't happen in time trouble situations. We haven't seen it, right? I don't think it happened in time trouble situations. So that's probably a good sign for things to come and for the next couple of days in terms of technical capabilities.
I am at a loss for words. I don't even know. Usually, I'm very rarely at a loss for words.
What's your longest day of broadcast, Fiona?
I think this one.
This one.
I think
okay.
Probably this one. I think I've done one that was longer in terms of hours. I think the last day of Gibraltar Open, when they then had the playoffs, and I think the broadcast was 10 hours long, but I think there was a longer break for us, maybe an hour or two in between the games ending, the classical games, and the tiebreak starting. So I think in terms of, I've also done probably double rounds, but again, it's 2 broadcasts. I think in terms of just one straight broadcast, this has got to be it. What about you?
I do think we've had one of the Singfield Cups, which lasted about 9 hours, because we had the tie breaks on the same day.
Yeah.
So this was the final day. We had the tie breaks happening, and I think it was a very long tie breaks. More people involved. I think it
But
was
probably the same situation where you also got a bit of a break, probably, but
some breaks for
tie
sure.
breaks, I
Some breaks, yes. I think this was, let's say, the most engaged one because we only get, the occasional breaks, right? And they're not very long. But no, definitely, I think this might, top the cake.
Yeah.
And they're still.
They are still.
It seems like Hans is complaining about his mouse.
And Loz, and hello Loz, good to see you in the chat, is saying that there was a tweet that apparently Hans's mouse has run out of battery.
No, but they're not playing with a Bluetooth mouse. There's no way they're playing with a Bluetooth
But
mouse.
you said there was nothing wrong, right?
I thought that was against the rules.
For what reason?
That was my my understanding.
I mean,
when I was
I
reading
mean,
that.
also in general,
good
isn't a
reason
wired
to avoid the
mouse?
game.
Don't all these top guys?
If there was
use wired?
nothing wrong.
Wired, yes, wired for sure. Yeah, it just has
This
the
has
better
been
latency.
confirmed by the recording?
The better response time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not convinced
Come on,
exactly
guys.
what's
Okay, they
happening.
have reset the timer though. Does that mean that something?
To 55. Okay, they reset it to 55. So maybe let's see if we can restart. Did they reset it to 55?
Are they playing?
No, they haven't. No, they didn't. I think that was just me having the previous position
Yeah,
on the
but
board.
for a second the clock. Oh.
That
No, but
was me
what I
having the
mean is
previous
they
position on
changed
the
the
board.
timer of the remaining time. I think on the official. No. On our secret link, you know what I mean? The timer was 2 minutes 30 remaining, and now it's 3:30.
Yeah.
This is such a joke. I'm actually.
Well, look, this is a good thing for Hikaru.
Oh my god.
It's a great thing for Hikaru because as long as Hans stays awake,
Yeah.
Hikaru is probably going to have not an easier time. Obviously, it's never going to be an easy time, but better chances for the simple fact that definitely this is going to take a lot of.
What just happened in the new game?
Did they just start a new game?
I have no idea.
Oh,
What is
and Hans just okay. Hans is basically just throwing it.
But is this actually happening?
Yeah. No, he's just
No,
throwing
I
it
think
because
his mouse. No, he's laughing. I think his mouse is I don't think this was a throw. I think his mouse is probably malfunctioning.
game aborted. Okay.
And this is obviously not the move he wanted to make, unless it was a protest. But we can see from the player cams that it wasn't a protest. Something happened here again.
Yes. Look,
And
again, I do think that at this moment they should find some sort of a conclusion and
I
keep
wish
the
they
game
would
going,
just
finish
say,
the game.
okay, that's it, guys. Let's call it.
You can talk about it in the
Yeah.
post-match interview.
We'll give you the money for an extra win, both of you. That's just enough is enough.
No, I think they're ready. I think they like Magnus is definitely ready. Magnus is definitely ready. But to be honest, he has the extra day, so for him it doesn't really matter. He's going to go to sleep, have a rest day tomorrow, enjoy Paris, visit the Louvre, and get back.
That sounds like exactly the kind of thing Magnus will do on his rest day.
Play some soccer. I mean, I don't know, football, whatever you want to call it. Kind of feel ashamed calling it soccer as a European, but I've been living in the States for a while. But yeah, let's see. I think finally we have. Okay, I think we're getting
Okay, can
we're
we
getting
get
moves.
through these 3.5 minutes, please?
We're getting moves, Fiona. We're here. We're here. We've made it. We've made it. Okay.
Yeah, but don't jinx it. It's not over yet.
We have 3 minutes on the clock, and that's gonna be it. That's going to call it a day. 7 points difference. No way to come back from this. Knight takes e4. Okay. F takes e6. What exactly is this? I would assume you just want to go knight g3. But maybe I can just even take this. I have a couple of ways to try to get that pawn back. But taking on f7, that pawn on f7 is going to be such a deadly thorn in black's position.
I couldn't agree more, Christian. Completely agree with you.
Are we still following the games is the question.
I have my eyes open and I'm looking at the board, you know.
That's a win. That's a win. I'll take that. I will certainly take that. Knight to e4. I had a party set up at 6 and I had to move it to 6:30. I'm hoping to get a shower in if I have time before the party.
But what if the suddenly Hans is winning?
Yeah, don't think it matters that much, but well, it certainly does matter. It certainly does matter. Obviously, both of these players want that final win. Final wins.
They look exhausted, by the way.
They do. They do. They're adding 5 minutes to the match clock to account for the time losses earlier in the match. No, only kidding. Okay. You caught me. You caught me with that one. For a second, I actually thought you were serious about it. Okay, but now I have.
Now it's just the draw.
I'm not sure. Passed pawns, connected passers. If anybody is playing for a win, it's Magnus. Yes.
I would be terrified on either side of this endgame.
Has to be Magnus right now. We've got Fate, okay. B1, C3, probably. Did I just jinx it for Magnus? C2 just wins on the spot.
That's why?
Because of King C1, A2, King A1, Rook D2.
Very nice.
Yeah, Magnus is probably disgusted. Probably disgusted. He did not like that.
I have some good news.
What is the good news?
This is, I think, the last game.
This is the last game. Okay, all right. This is for all the marbles. Fiona, who do you think is going to take it? The commentators' predictions.
I think Hans is gonna take it, actually. And if he takes it, I mean, it's insane. Not so long ago, it was a 10-point deficit, or am I dreaming? And now it's, if he wins, it's gonna be 5. And that's how quickly things can change in the bullet portion.
Yeah. 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 I mean, this might actually be 5 in a row, if I'm not mistaken, for Hans. The last 5 of the match.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's definitely huge. Rook to E1. Okay. Any final words, Fiona? Any final words? I know we're coming.
No final words.
Coming close. It's just about that time.
I wonder how many words we've spoken today. A lot.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, in the 10,000s, I would say.
For sure.
I would say 10,000 words, at least.
At least. I mean, I'm very bad at this, but I would guess, yeah. We jumped on the Zoom call almost 10 hours ago?
9 hours. Well, yes, on the Zoom call.
On the Zoom call, yeah, the show went live.
Yeah, it's. Fiona is going. Oh, whoa, Queen E1, Queen E1.
Oh my god, Queen.
He didn't find it. Oh, that would have been such a.
That was a beautiful
positive
tactic,
way
actually.
to finish the match.
It would be such a tilting way to lose the last game for Hans as well.
Yes. But now he has it. Now he should have it. Okay. Over under on whether they're going to shake hands after the match.
No chance.
No chance. Zero chance. Yeah.
Zero
chance. Yeah. Queen Rook takes B6, and that might be it. And that's it.
Magnus wins the last 5 games of the match. Magnus is the winner though, 17 and a half, 12 and a half.
Certainly a positive feeling for Hans to finish on a high note. Definitely not something that Magnus wanted to see, but surely he's quite happy with the result. The outcome of this match was known perhaps 20 to 30 minutes ago, without much doubt. That's pretty good. And after so much talk, we finally have somewhat of an answer. Magnus is still really good at chess. Hans is good, but he has plenty to catch up. Magnus is still the man to beat.
I was looking at the camera, seeing if there would be a handshake, but Magnus stayed sat in his chair, and Hans waited around a little bit, but then walked off. So no handshake. Indeed. And guys, I think that is going to conclude this show from our side. If you want to see
interviews,
Magnus interview, you can head on over to the official, to the chess.com stream. From our side, this is it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. It was an action-packed day. Unfortunately, it didn't go Hikaru's way in his match against Alireza, so he will be taking on Hans tomorrow for 3rd place. That happens at 6 p.m. Central European Summer Time, noon Eastern, and then same time again on Sunday for the final. Magnus Carlsen against Alireza. The two of us, Christian and I, will be here to take you through all the action. So let's all get some sleep and come back tomorrow with renewed power. Christian, enjoy your party. I'm gonna go and enjoy some sleep.
Beautifully said, Fiona. Beautifully wrapped up. See you tomorrow, and see you guys in tomorrow's match. Big one coming up. Cheers, good night, or good day, wherever you are in the world. See you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.